Seodohun looks like a simple high school student with a backpack, but he can still clear an entire dungeon all by himself. This particular dungeon is full of seemingly impossible, colossal orcs, Leandian, who fought the threat with equal ferocity. Many years passed while fighting countless monsters, relentlessly piling up corpses with the soul. Shares many similarities with the world he comes from, the one that was destroyed. The only significant difference is that the rifts, portals, and monsters here are slightly weaker than those from the looked for a fight at every opportunity. For an entire country to back down, something else must have happened. As for what that something was, Natayong had no idea. The old man. He simply couldn't shake the feeling that, with Dojun at the center, the balance of the world had already begun to shift. Now, only one day remained before the start of the operation to close the crack zone in Brazil. The Korean team, having arrived early, had just finished adapting to and familiarizing themselves with the area. Everyone exchanged and shared the joint operation plans, rigorously perfecting their strategy. Music. The remaining heroes recruited from all over the world had also gathered. To promote cooperation and ensure success, the Brazilian government organized a sort of pre-battle festival. Music. The star of the event was, of course, the media's enigmatic darling of the present day, Music Seodohun. The guy had even bought a coat to maximize his aura. In the banquet hall, filled with all kinds of delicacies, Dojun conversed quite well. With heroes from different countries, the news of him defeating Reo Matakasi had already spread globally. Music. Naturally, everyone wanted to hear all the juicy details. Anyone who approached Dohun spoke to him about the incident, yet he never responded with even a hint of arrogance. Inju casually remarked that, compared to the man of the hour, she and Jian seemed like ordinary people. Music. Normally that kind of comment would have elicited some reaction from someone of that rank, but Joan remained silent, seemingly lost in her own thoughts. Music. While trying to figure out why she was so down, Inju looked around the hall. She saw an impeccably dressed Dohun talking to prominent figures in the hero world, and clinging to his arm was an 18-so, a world he witnessed crumble. For someone who held the title of Sword God in his previous life, this place is nothing more than a sandbox to him. Until now, he has only been fighting with a tenth of his original power. Music. Incredibly beautiful woman. Immediately, Jian's mood made sense. That woman was Gloria Tor, a top-ranked American heroine. Music. And voted the most beautiful heroine in the world. Inju connected the dots and patted her friend on the back. Music. She yelled at her to stop pouting like a little girl, to get up and go talk to her man. Jian. He didn't really know how to interact with Dojun outside of a rift, but he still approached him. Of course, he looked completely out of place, shyly looking at the ground instead of behaving like a heroine. Dojun noticed the slight blush on her cheeks and couldn't help but smile in amusement. Gloria Tor took the hint and said goodbye. Interestingly, she referred to Dojun as Carsel, his real name from his previous life. It seemed that he had introduced himself to her that way. Even Joan was unaware of the whole Carsel thing. She assumed it must be his Western name, or something. In a way, she wasn't wrong. It was a name he used before he called himself Seodohun. With so little information, she wondered if that guy had lived abroad as a child. But that was impossible, as she had already conducted a fairly exhaustive background check. Joan was clearly upset that another woman had discovered Dojun had a different name before she did. While the two of them were chatting in the middle of the banquet, a certain individual lingered nearby, discreetly holding a glass. Kanyong-pyo listened to everything. Inwardly, he cursed his Japanese friend for being unable to handle just one guy. At this rate, he would have to intervene himself. As he burned inside with the desire to destroy Dojun, his large ears picked up Jian whispering a warning. He reminded him that although he was strong, enemies didn't always play fair. Reo Matasaisi had several close friends that they should be concerned about. Suddenly, there is a knock on the door, and the visitor announces that he wants to see Dojun. He gets up and decides to answer it. Upon opening the door, he finds two thugs standing outside. These guys have come to collect a debt. An absurd 48 million buon that Dojun supposedly owes was in that very room. Dojun interrupted before he could blurt out the name of the obvious person responsible. He stated that he didn't need to know who was coming after him. He would take care of it himself, the bastard, but with a different face. Just like Takasi, that brain was nothing more than an arrogant and filthy clown, completely unskilled. Dojun insisted that people like that weren't even worth worrying about. As he slowly turned his gaze toward the target directly behind them, Kanan, feigning innocence, quickly turned around, pretending not to understand, but he had definitely heard. That guy was about to explode in the middle of The icing on the cake of that perfect turnaround was Dohun's mocking smile, openly provoking him. The provocation worked. Yongo no longer wanted to send thugs. He wanted to take care of Dohun's problem with his own hands. After the pre-battle festival, the heroes rested and were deployed the following night. Inju. From there, Guild, Jian, and Dojun gathered in front of the rift assigned to their team and had to pause for a moment. The rift area near Sanderm looked murkier, darker, and more sinister than usual. Habit. Still, some of the boys considered that change rather insignificant. With two of that competent rank in the group, they could just walk in and close the rift without much trouble. What could go wrong? With some trepidation, he gave the order to advance. To the side, Doj had a grim gaze fixed on the overgrown rift. He could feel something approaching. The girls had They had no idea what he was implying, but his words, laden with foreboding, made them uneasy. It was faint and difficult to notice, but the mana density in the area was increasing at an abnormal rate. Inside the rift, suspended in the air, an entity with extremely long nails was observing a phone that showed a progress meter of 23%. The bearer assumed that reaching D-teen. Seeing this, Dohun confirms that they are loan sharks, the same ones from whom the original Dohun took out a loan before he died. It was supposed to be only 5 million to pay his grandmother's hospital bills, but these guys charge insane interest, demanding 10 times the initial amount in practically no time. 30% was just around the corner. According to his calculations, that level of power would be sufficient to kill the useless insects who called themselves heroes and who had just entered the crack. As soon as they crossed it, everyone felt their bodies grow heavy, as if the air was crushing them. Moving was extremely difficult, and the density of the air made breathing complicated. Everything indicated music, a drastic change in the quality of mana. It was even thicker than in the Padasua forest. Jian had never seen Dohun tense up like that before. He couldn't help but worry about the mission for that day. Still, they were committed to finishing it. Like the competent leader she was, Inju kept her team in check and calmed their nerves. She explained that the abnormal weight was just a characteristic of the crack zone. With such difficulty moving, they couldn't let their guard down. Knowing that Dohun and Jian were their best insurance policy, Inju respectfully requested that they concentrate on protecting the formation as much as possible until they discovered why the mana density had changed. That was the safest decision. They accepted. No matter what happened, their goal was to close the rift without exception. The Cleon Guild members looked ready to follow their leader to hell and back. At the same time that Dojun entered the anomalous Holy Rift, another group had gathered in the rift zone near Manaus, the largest city in northern Brazil. A joint team of French, Korean, and Brazilian heroes had been sent there, and they were failing miserably. They were getting beaten to a pulp, and worse. If in solo leveling there were ants, here they had killer bees. The confident foreign heroes believed it would be an easy mission. Those bees should have been easy kills for S-rank heroes. They know that he has been earning money in the cracks lately, so they want him to hand over the cash, since everything is recorded in the contract. However, they were being overwhelmed by giant insects. Even S-rank heroes were dropping like flies. The killer bees had no regard for human life. They were killers for a reason. The name, music. What did you expect? The only hero remaining tried his luck against one of the flying creatures, and his fist landed squarely. It was useless. His body was so damn heavy that he couldn't project the force he wanted. Normally, music he alone could destroy an entire colony of these bees, but here they weren't the cleanup squad. They were nothing more than helpless prey for the real hunters. It was difficult to know how many of those heroes would make it out alive. Music. Back in Sanderm, Inju barely managed to dodge a brutal axe blow in their first encounter. In front of the squad stood a battalion of black orcs, and they were no ordinary black orcs, just like the killer bees. Their strength was normally superior to music, what their classification indicated. Still, the guys from the Cleon Guild kept up the pressure and executed music their combos, but landing hits that didn't. Causing damage doesn't guarantee victory, even with their perfect teamwork. They were caught completely off guard. Cleon was almost completely wiped out by a full-force axe attack. Jian had to step in, dragging them to safety away from the beasts, and also scolded them for charging in so recklessly. After ensuring the rookies were safe, Jian went back into the fight. The Black Orc tried to trip her mid-air, but the S-rank dodged every attack with an impossible impossible grace. Displaying flawless footwork, she turned the tables and went on the offensive with a spinning kick. With an inhuman reaction time, the monster quickly, but all they receive in return is a punch, quickly moved to protect his vulnerable bald head. Jian's feint was successful. She avoided the spin and increased the height of her spinning kick even more. She descended from the sky with the force of a meteorite. With one of the orcs had fallen, and the rest of them flared up, seeking revenge. Using a clever maneuver, Jian tricked an enraged orc into accidentally striking his own comrade with his massive bone club. Realizing what he had done, the orc froze in shock. That instant gave Jian the perfect opportunity to appear behind him with a lightning-fast movement. This time, he didn't need complicated techniques, just a direct kick to the back of the neck. The clan boys watched attentively, and because of the destructive enigma called Seodohun, they had almost forgotten that Jian was also of that rank, far above mere mortals like themselves. There was one last orc remaining. He tried to act tough with a war roar, but a punch flew straight into his jaw, silencing him immediately. Jian had already had his moment of glory. Now, Dojun was finishing off the remaining trash. Injus felt powerless. They had barely came out of the crack entrance, and the difficulty was already this high. Even with 2 S-rank hunters carrying the team, shutting down this place wouldn't be a walk in the park. After eliminating the orcs, Dojun, he bent down to examine the corpses, but Jian didn't follow suit. He pointed to the faint black ripple surrounding the beasts. It was difficult to see for untrained eyes, but it was there if you concentrated hard enough. Now Dojun was certain that black ripple was ridiculously empowering the monsters. Its presence, its effect, and its essence matched dark mana, something that shouldn't exist in this world. It seems he was feeling talkative today because he explained what the black ripple meant for the mission. Deeper into the Sander crack, they arrived at, sending a direct blow to the big guy's face. That single hit sends the poor fellow flying, leaving his partner with his jaw dropped in shock. Our guy then shoots him a look. Another biome, and encountered another kind of monster, slimy piles of mud and a pack of swamp creatures. Against those slimy bastards, the Cleon team returned to the fight, wanting to prove their worth. They executed their practiced rotations with speed and precision, but they simply lacked sufficient damage output. Perhaps a 2-man combo could break through the defense. Cooperation could only carry them so far. They managed to incapacitate one of the monsters, but not enough to deliver the finishing blow. They were accustomed to dealing with ordinary swamp ghouls, but this was a different breed altogether. Completely exposed, the boys found themselves trapped in the petrifying mud. The spearman managed to break free, but his shield-bearing companion bore the brunt of the attack. The force was sufficient to tear apart even a high-end combat suit. Each strike was potentially fatal. Despair, helplessness, and confusion clouded their minds as they struggled to resist. A single moment of carelessness, a lapse in environmental awareness, could cost them their lives. Luckily, the guildmaster, Inju, was attentive to any treacherous moves from the limbs. With her boys in danger, her combat instincts were ignited. They were on fire. She wielded her sword as an extension of her own body, demonstrating how she had reached the top through her own merits. Still, she couldn't shake the unease she felt. If the swamp ghouls were that strong, the Valkoras would be much worse. For a moment, she allowed herself a terrifying thought. What if all areas of the world's cracks were undergoing this same change? Meanwhile, let's see what was happening in the other crack area near Manhwa. In that area, the rookies were not deadly to the skinny guy, to remind him that more than 9 million has already been paid. So, if you do the math, these bastards should be paying him interest, with another punch that makes the guy cry like, lucky enough to have reliable chargers. The sole survivor of one of the groups was running frantically through the forest with his life hanging by a thread. Brazilian Ironwood, Francis, David, and many others had fallen. Those 2 were supposed to be invincible, of that rank, and yet they were eliminated by just a few Valkora, a ferocious spider monster. As Jian and Dojun smashed through swamps with their fists, they brought up the subject of the monstrous insect waiting for them at the end of the rift. Dojun remembered very well that a mana-infused Valkora, Dark, was especially dangerous. If those spiders had been infected by the same black aura, they would be a real problem. While they were discussing the final boss, Jian was still pulverizing slimy monsters. Likewise, Dojun gave them an express lesson on highly concentrated mana, flowing directly into the body of a graph monster. Jian asked him if he was talking about the blue bar that players use to cast magic in video games. It seemed like he wasn't going to get very far with that lesson in this world. No one knew that the greatest difference between a hero and an ordinary person was their ability to harbor and utilize mana. Interrupting his own class, Dojun pierced through the body of a golem with a single, swampy punch. He then pondered the implications of a world that didn't even have the concept of mana. Now he understood why this world was so peaceful in comparison to his previous world. At this rate, that balance might be on the verge of breaking, but for now, he was just going to forcefully make his way through that camp. swampy, with his own hands. Dojun dispatched the largest swamp golems in the blink of an eye. The Cleon trainees looked like they had been through a war, while their S-rank caretakers, a baby. Dohun orders him to tell his boss that Dojun will be paying him a visit. The scene then cuts to a bustling shopping mall, where we see sweet little Anon's face light up at the sight of, instead, were impeccable. Now that they were out of danger, Dojun improvised a more easily digestible explanation about the properties of black mana. In short, monsters. In this rift, they were like athletes pumped full of steroids and performance-enhancing drugs. Dohun found it strange and worrying how little humanity understood about this concept. Leaving the Swamp Ghoul's territory, Dohun took the lead, guiding the group away from the area where the Valkyrie appeared. They also slowed their pace, nearly coming to a complete stop. After a few minutes, then he signaled them to halt, and the entire team stopped. They had gotten incredibly lucky. They had stumbled upon the place where a Valkyrie hid her food cocoons, wrapped in incredibly resistant silk. Killer bees and black orcs were captured and stored for consumption. It was safe to assume that the monster responsible for that gruesome scene was nearby, but according to their de facto leader, they could relax a little. Instead of finding the beast, they had stumbled upon the real danger, and it was a good thing they did. Dohun released more of those fiery blasts with the hand. The targets were stationary, making his aim perfect. Each blast exploded, burning the cocoons and the dead monsters inside them. The vines that absorb dark mana, they can control their dead prey like puppets. Destroying them now would be a huge advantage in the final fight. Leaving them there would be a recipe for disaster. With his secret weapon reduced to ashes, all that was left was to eliminate the ugly spider. The team looked at him as if he were crazy. Considering what they had just witnessed, it was a reasonable reaction. Inju and the others were impressed. Even in a seemingly hopeless situation, he acted as if he knew exactly what to do. They were blinded by his strength, but at this point, his abilities seemed inhuman. Juyan, music, a teddy bear store. Dojun brought her there for a day of shopping, telling her she can choose whatever she wants today. You know, music, our boy, wasn't always such a tender softie. In his previous life, it's teased him a bit about his encyclopedic knowledge and precise decision-making process, asking him in a mischievous tone if this was his second life or something. The question made him laugh. Genuine. For a moment, he fondly remembered who he used to be. His second stint in prison as Seodohun could very well be considered a second life. Changing the subject, he asked Inju how far they were from the core. With the map and their current position in mind, she estimated that they were halfway there and would be through the next jungle soon. At their current pace, it would be a long trip, but Dohun claimed they could close the rift before the day was out. It sounded crazy, but for him, it might actually be possible. For the Cleon members, a one-day boss rush was simply too much. Most of them had already exhausted their stamina fighting the storm. If they couldn't continue, they were welcome to rest. Dojun couldn't afford to waste time. He would take care of the giant spider by himself and return when he was finished. Without another word, he shot off, propelled by the wind. He left, back to square one, allowing no room for argument. They had been through hell, and yet, this man still had the energy to cross the forest like an unstoppable freight train. With the landscape blurring around him, his eyes moved non-stop, searching for details that would lead him to the final fight. With his tracking skills and a rough idea of the Belka's nest's location, he finally spotted his target. The Belka was a disgusting beast, scaly and covered in spikes. Its abdomen was covered in hard armor with protruding blades. There was also bitten a certain Peter Parker once, but that didn't matter. Seodohun jumped into the air and began the movements of his technique, with the sword still sheathed. He started his exotic cooking show, sword in hand, and without an ounce of fear in his heart. And finally, the day arrived when he confronted Aaron's sworn brother. That despicable guy was truly difficult to defeat. Dojun's memories that rekindled his extinguished emotions. It warms his heart to see how Dojun treats Onan, even if she's only his stepsister. Music. That's why. Exotic, cutting the spider's legs, which had scales thicker than steel. Judging by the horrendous screech, losing 3 legs at once must have hurt quite a bit. Enraged, the bracelet opened its jaws and shot out sticky silk like an addict who just discovered the internet. Music. It was a large, but unsuccessful attack. Dojun dodged the web with inhuman agility. No, it didn't make sense to prolong the fight with such a significant music level difference. With crossed slashes, the cooking show came to an end. Dojun sliced Belka into several pieces and still had time to adjust his music posture to land perfectly and farm aura. The monster that slaughtered S ranks in another area of the rift was crushed in seconds. Music. He stood up, exhaled deeply, and checked his body for any changes. Surprisingly, his energy was still at its maximum, without a trace of fatigue, likely thanks to the dark mana that he had absorbed through his music cultivation technique. After packing up the strongest monster in the rift, Dojun returned to the camp as if he had simply gone to relieve himself in the forest, or something like that. Hwan Inju didn't need to ask if he had achieved his goal. They already knew. He didn't even look tired. His sweatshirt was covered in blood, but none of it was his own. How could he not feel it? With no more dangerous monsters nearby, that jungle was the perfect place to camp and rest. Once they lit the bonfire, everyone sat down to relax. The injured received treatment, and those less battered chatted amongst themselves. And then there was Seodohun, calmly roasting spider meat on a stick. One of Cleon's men, the one with Asta's gun, watched what he was doing and felt curiosity, so he approached the seemingly unattainable leader. In a friendly tone, he asked Dojun if he could try some of the meat. He had quite a bit himself, so sharing wasn't an issue. Seeing him, he wants to continue doing the same thing, and make sure to give this little one all the love that he can muster. The girl finally chooses a stuffed animal that she really wants, a small bunny. Sitting and eating with Dojun, another member of Cleon's group approached. The one with Asta's weapon wanted to try the meat, because he thought it might be the secret to Dojun's strength. They had nothing to lose, so the boys, they gathered around the fire to get some of Dohun's meat, and everyone watched with interest as they ate it. Dojun was happy to see them sharing their food. It wasn't a big deal, apart from filling their stomachs, but he didn't dislike that it motivated people to want to get stronger. As a small gift, he subtly manipulated their mana, giving the guys a boost of energy. The effect was immediate. Of course, the boys attributed the warm energy coursing through their bodies to the meat. Seeing him smile also managed to break Dojun's serious expression, even if it was just for a second. After dinner, they continued planning their route. With the map unfolded, Inju pointed out the direct path towards the core of the rift. It had been a long day, and everyone was exhausted. The safest thing would be to return and continue tomorrow. Although Dojun insisted that the rift must be closed today, their backpacks were already full of loot, and it would be more prudent to retreat and come back later. Jian agreed with Injo's assessment. The previous fights had also depleted his stamina, and the monsters infused with dark mana were too problematic. Well, the original plan had always been to delay the closure of the rift as long as possible, so they could collect the greatest amount of rare materials, including the heart of the blue croco. The idea was to turn the rift into an infinite source of resources, but the sudden appearance of dark mana had completely changed that plan. Drastic changes like that were never a good sign inside a rift. Furthermore, Dohun can sense something strange in the dark mana floating in the air, but very tender. She chooses it modestly, taking care not to be extravagant, but Doj chooses a larger one. He doesn't want her to hold back at all. It's her day, and she can. Although he couldn't figure out exactly what it was. Dojun took his sack and emptied its contents onto the floor. Pause. The sack was filled with the glowing red eyes of the Belkara. He asked the girls to take all of that legendary loot to the hotel first, since they were determined to retreat, and they could keep their share of the loot before heading back inside. In the deep, dark forest, he promised to close the rift and rejoin the group soon. On his way to the core, Seodohun encountered several annoying obstacles, starting with the ghouls. From the swamp they reappeared, wandering among the muddy waters, and by now he must have killed dozens, eliminating them almost for sport as he moved. When using only his hands he grew bored, his eyes sharpened, and he drew his sword. The slime from the swamp monster stained his blade as the ghouls disintegrated around him. The key to killing them, quickly and easily, had always been to aim for the core. Meanwhile, in the opposite direction, the Cleon Guild and June took the path toward the exit as soon as they got out. The sun, walking alongside her friend, Enju expressed her concern for Dojun. Juyeon reassured her that he would be fine, saying that if he still had the energy to shoot off like a bullet after saying a few words, then he had plenty of energy to fend for himself. That's what she said, but Enju could clearly see the dismay etched on her face. Juyeon's head was down, not out of concern for Dojun, but out of shame. She felt like a fake calling herself an S rank next to him. She couldn't even think of anyone else in the world who was on his level. Music. Moving gracefully in the air, Seodohun's sword fell upon the head of a black orc, giving the poor orc the most painful free haircut. Choose whatever she wants without thinking twice about the money. They both also indulge in eating something delicious, and while they are enjoying the food, an unknown voice calls out in the world. Music. Half of its head and brain were sliced off in one clean cut. Without missing a beat, he changed his target music and finished off another black orc with a swift blow to the 40s bald head. His emotionless massacre enraged the remaining orcs. Watching them flail around like children caused him to let out a soft, mocking laugh. Music. An axe came hurtling towards him in a clumsy attack and vanished before his eyes. When he reappeared, he already had several spheres of destructive fire prepared in his hand. He unleashed a barrage of spells against the orcs, burning their bodies to a slow and agonizing death. By the time he finished backing out through the black orc nest, he had already exterminated the entire Bald population. With each kill, his loot sack grew heavier and heavier. By then, Ju and the others had finally made their way out of the rift they entered through. With Honor 7, their bags loaded with valuable materials, they returned to collect their reward. While they headed towards the safety of the city, Dojun continued to farm the rift solo. In the broad daylight of that day, he killed a blue croco without even blinking an eye. Covered in the blood of his victims, he continued to add to his kill count. While the corpse was still fresh, he opened the reptile's chest, and he extracted its heart. After successfully harvesting it, he put the huge heart in a jar and sealed it well to maintain the material in its optimal condition. Adding a few more cuts to the body of his victim, he obtained 2 additional crystals for his bag. Camping in the Blue Croco area proved surprisingly profitable thanks to the high drop rate. When they stopped, appearing, downpacked everything to move to another area. Outside the rift and inside the operations room of the Brazilian Heroes Association, the government technicians were Guy's name. It is a middle-aged woman accompanied by several bodyguards. This woman seems to be yet another loudmouth who enjoys talking trash about him, working tirelessly to monitor the joint expeditions. For the first time since the operation began, headquarters received a positive notification. According to the map readings, the Opersest, the crack in Santa, had disappeared. For a minute, the technicians couldn't believe what they were seeing. As reality sunk in, the room erupted in cheers. They immediately investigated what had happened in that sector and discovered that only one Korean team was deployed there, the team registered under the guild name Cleon. But how could that team have cleared the crack if, just 10 minutes prior, they had contacted headquarters to report their tactical withdrawal? Nothing made sense. Everyone was perplexed. 10 minutes earlier, our boy was in the middle of a brutal fight against a hideous opponent, the ravenous two-headed ogre. With the naked eye, Dojun could tell that the monster had rapidly evolved due to dark mana enrichment. The beast stamped its foot on the ground, and the tremor almost caused him to lose his balance. Behind that final obstacle, the rift core floated above the open terrain. Anxious to end that long night, so Dojun shifted from his usual stance. After the stomp, the ogre exploited its long reach to its advantage. The tip of Dojun's sword began to heat up rapidly. At the same time, the ogre's colossal fist became a blur as it transformed into a full-on strike. No matter how small the opening the enemy presents, so Dojun always finds a way to exploit it. With his sword hot and ready, he unleashed the second form of the Andean sword skills. With a fire capable of obliterating everything in its path, Gromi Gramaro, Poera, a linear sweeping magic, erupted. The two-headed ogre could not have anticipated what was coming. A perfectly straight slash descended upon the monster's shoulder before it could. First, she makes fun of his bad taste in clothing. Then, she questions the girl who is sitting next to him. She has the audacity to insinuate that he must have gotten her pregnant. React. It left a deep and lengthy gash along its torso, causing the ogre to roar in agony. In combat, Seodohun could finally release his tension and smile like a maniac, and he was only just beginning. Without giving the monster a second to breathe, he advanced, flaming blade in hand. He was too fast for the monster to defend itself. He practically dismembered it. Dismembering the two-headed ogre, the desperate ogre raised a fist, attempting a blow packed with the compact force of its muscles. Dojun skillfully dodged, using vertical momentum while preparing another attack. This time, instead of a single slash, multiple cross-shaped lines sliced through the monster. Not even the nearby trees were spared from his cutting combination. Unconcerned about his surroundings and with no rookie heroes nearby, Dojun could finally stretch out and fight without limitations. By now, the ogre knew it was doomed. Having 2 heads and 2 brains only doubled its fear. Instinctively, it tried to evade the deadly attack by leaping to the side. At first, it looked like he would manage to escape the carnage, but one of his legs was caught by the cutting magic sweeping through the area. The invisible blade pierced skin, flesh, and bone, a clean cut. Both heads released an agonizing shriek. With the monster unbalanced and limping on a single leg, Dojun's next attack was guaranteed to be a critical hit. The second form of the Gale Sword skills was a brutal stance capable of slicing even the most powerful enemies into pieces within minutes. When the two-headed ogre fell to the floor, it looked like it was raining meat. Dojun took a deep breath and sheathed his sword. He then turned his attention to the core of the dungeon crack in front of him, to some girl. And so, the girl was born, just like his own mother, who brought him into the world. Naturally, those sharp barbs infuriate our boy like nothing else. Meanwhile, gazing into the eye of the abyss, he carefully studied its contents. He noticed that the density of dark mana surrounding it remained constant, unchanged. It meant the core was unrelated to the anomaly. In all likelihood, the dark mana was being pumped in from an outside source, meaning someone was doing this intentionally. To flood a rift zone with such a high concentration of dark mana would require immense power. Dojun estimated that someone on the level of an undead lord or an imperial lich must be behind this malicious manipulation. She would have already been enslaved as undead soldiers. It was difficult to identify a suspect immediately. In any case, closing the rift wouldn't end the anomaly if an external factor was involved. Dojun clenched his fist and delivered a blow that shattered the core. A single impact was enough to crack the rotating mass of energy, and the fractures spread quickly. Involved. Dojun clenched his fist and delivered a blow that shattered the core. Music. A single impact was enough to crack the rotating mass of energy, and the fractures spread quickly. Everything shattered into tiny fragments. Dojun decided to investigate and track down whoever was manipulating these rifts. At the Brazilian Heroes headquarters, reports from multiple expeditions reached the association president. Reading the detailed report of what was occurring around the rifts sent chills down his spine. Every line about the Lord expeditions was unbelievable. For example, they had sent a joint 3-nation team of experienced heroes, and only one S-rank hero returned alive. On the other hand, a single Korean team managed to close their rift without casualties. Headquarters continued to receive updates from other zones. Virtually all attempts failed, and the traumatized heroes were. The girl has no idea who that woman is, or why she's so comfortable spouting such nonsense. The woman then turns her attention to the girl and asks her name. She introduces herself as Lee, desperately withdrawing. Despite assigning at least one S-rank hero per team, the initial wave was a complete failure. The only ray of hope was the successful closure, achieved by the Korean UNI team, though reports indicated it wasn't even clear if the credit truly belonged to them. The president opened the file and examined the team's report more closely. Saint. It stated that the rift had closed after they had already exited the portal. It didn't make sense. It was difficult to understand how the rift could have closed. They needed to hear what actually happened from UNI themselves. Fortunately, he was already on his way to headquarters and would arrive at any moment. From the moment the Juninju team emerged from the rift until they arrived at headquarters, only an hour had passed. In that same time frame, Dojun had closed the first rift effortlessly and had now entered the second nearby rift. He quickly determined that its core was underwater. Being the Giga he was, Dojun dove headfirst into the monster-infested waters. On the other side of the country, the president of the Brazilian Heroes Association was finally beginning to understand what happened at the Sand Rift was unbelievable to him. Even though the account came directly from Jian, it was still hard to believe that a single man had eliminated a rift so quickly, infected with dark mana. Jian wasn't present for the second half of Dohun's solo mission, but she was 100% certain that he resolved everything on his own. The president had to accept that fact. He shared classified information with Jian regarding the catastrophic failures of other teams. Several S-rank heroes had died in other rifts. Without mincing words, Jian admitted that she would have been part of that statistic if it hadn't been for Dohun. Based on the current information, it was difficult to believe his report, but he also passed on Union, which makes the woman realize that she is Dohun's sister. As a habit, the woman also comments on her clothes, saying that she looks like a mess. Valuable information about the dark mana that had supercharged the monsters, giving them power surpassing even that of S-rank heroes. Jian remained calm, sharing what I had to share the information. The association would decide whether or not to believe it. To make matters even more difficult, they had just received reports that several rifts in southern Santa had been closed. The president assumed that perhaps those rifts hadn't been affected by the dark mana. Joan warned him not to think that way, stating that the danger level of each crack was no longer what it once was. The first sign was the color of the entrance, which was different from normal. For now, that was the only way to verify if a crack was a death trap or not. The president immediately notified his team to verify each crack entrance in Brazil. While he was coordinating, Jian got up and left. His work there was finished. Leaving the office, he quickly called President Nate Wong of the Korean Hero Association. The old man listened patiently to Jeon's detailed report about the expedition and the dangers of dark mana, music. Fortunately, there were no signs of that dangerous variable in Korea. Now, Taiwan would also pay closer attention to its riffs. Music. If even S-rank heroes could be slaughtered like helpless animals by empowered monsters, it was a cause for genuine concern. If a monster, of boss class, were to come into contact with such an evil force, music, the results would be far more horrific. For now, they might be safe, but Korea needs to prepare for the worst, as much as possible. While everyone else was panicking, Seodohun was calmly taking a bath in the serene waters of the lake. Rivers, music, lakes, and islands could appear. This woman doesn't even respect the girl's deceased mother, and this whole thing is grating on our guy's nerves, but for some reason, he's holding back. In rifts with this type of environment, the core was usually located underwater. Naturally, music humans cannot breathe underwater. Very few heroes can fight full capacity in these very disadvantageous conditions. As far as Dojun knew, Adon Laporte, New Zealand's national hero, was the only S-rank hero truly competent in submarine combat. Thanks to his unique specialty, he charged an enormous sum to take care of aquatic beasts around the world. With his special ability to breathe under the quiet water, he practically monopolized the market for aquatic cracks. As Dojun descended into the depths, he immediately noticed that the presence of dark mana became denser. He took a long, deep breath and launched himself into the aquatic void. He swam skillfully through the body of water. The creatures near the surface did not represent a real threat. Upon reaching a certain depth, all light disappeared completely, possibly due to the effect of dark mana. He also noticed more monsters with a frightening, aggressive, and hovering with curiosity. He needed to stabilize his body underwater as he moved away from land. He used his mana to form a membrane around his entire body, blocking the pressure and allowing him to move freely. The further he descended, the more he had to adjust the resistance of that membrane. By the time he reached the deepest point of the rift, Dojun had calibrated the protection perfectly, moving without any hindrance. He was immediately targeted by one of the twisted monsters lurking in the first darkness. It looked like a predatory seahorse that had grown far too large. He knew that troublesome creature well. It was an Arachon. As expected, the monster seemed inflated. The battle was brutal, but he eventually took down that PC. After the fight, he too succumbed and died, but fate had other plans in store. With his soul, all without succumbing to her provocations. Even the woman is surprised at how Dojun maintains his composure and doesn't fall for her traps, so she decides to escalate things further, with an unnatural power thanks to dark mana. Dojun clenched his fist and reinforced his protection, expanding it over a larger area. In doing so, he illuminated the dark depths. The energy explosion caught Falcon completely off guard, obliterating him without him even needing to use his weapon. The arachnid's blood, viscera, and remains stained the water a dirty red. That scent of slaughter attracted a school of bloodthirsty piranha monsters. These opportunistic carnivores eagerly devoured the arachnid's eviscerated corpse. While the first wave was busy munching on the remains, the second wave focused its attention on Dojun. Dojun thought that if Adam Moore saw what was happening, he would probably pee in his swimsuit. When the second wave of piranhas entered his kill zone, Dojun dispatched them with brutal efficiency. Despite the water's instability, he maintained perfect control of his body. He hunted even more, even landing a punch to a shark's abdomen. With his feet planted firmly on the bottom, he unleashed a flurry of blows as fast as he could on land, slaughtering fish left and right. As the casualty count rose, more hungry beasts swarmed around him. Dealing with these minor annoyances was, admittedly, a pain. For the time being, Dojun decided to reposition himself. He chose a direction and took off at full speed. As he fled from his aquatic enemies, he felt a sense of foreboding. He had arrived in an area where no other creature dared to venture. Before him, reclining on a stone bed, was a peculiar, one-eyed fish. Dojun recognized it immediately. That unsettling fish was a Crios. He hadn't expected to encounter such a familiar creature that day. The excitement brought a smile to his face. In his previous life, all those whose names were etched in legend had one thing in common. You fat, shameless woman, you have the audacity to ask a little girl what it means? That was the last straw. Dojun explodes and calls her an ugly woman belonging to the tribe of orcs. They had all hunted the infamous Crios when they were still nobodies. For Dojun, this was a golden opportunity that he couldn't afford to miss. Coincidentally, the core of the rift, it was just below where the acro was resting. The flattened fish, with its gold and purple eye, positioned itself to fight. Dojun mirrored the action, firmly planting firmly his feet on the bottom of the water. These creatures had no natural enemies. When faced with any threat, they simply created a subspace and swallowed everything whole. A true, absolute devourer. As expected, the moment Dojun got close enough, the subspace expanded, attempting to absorb everything. Dojun fought to avoid the worst scenario, being eliminated in a single move before he could even begin. After narrowly dodging the initial expansion, he scoffed and moved with precision between the narrow spaces left by the subspace. His movements were fluid, avoiding the infinite void on the other side of the distortion. The Crios kept its single eye fixed on the human, problematic as Seodohun went into Super Saiyan mode. In that position, he could kill the fish quickly, music, but if he opted for that brutal method, he wouldn't obtain its subspace. The only way, the correct way to hunt it was by using pure mana suppression. Only then could he kill the creature and keep the subspace intact. With high-quality mana and brute force, Seodohun maximized his output and surpassed the subspace's expansion. Music, the light and destructive energy of his pure mana, eliminated other nearby monsters. Those poor fish didn't even know what hit them. Music Seodohun didn't care one bit about collateral damage. He was more concerned about the creature's stamina. Music. The more he tried to move forward and close the box. Of course, the woman was left wide-eyed and completely blank, totally taken by surprise. Now, let's add some context to understand why Dojun. Distance. The denser and more viscous the subspace became, he was releasing an absurd amount of pure mana, music, and his reserve was about to be depleted. He had no choice but to try. Absorbing dark mana from the depths, he opened his body to receive the malevolent energy, purifying and expelling it in rapid succession. Pushing his body beyond its limits, he felt a trickle of blood run from his nose and coughed up blood, perhaps having overestimated his physical capacity. Meanwhile, Helikos watched him intently with his enigmatic eye, refusing to let the golden opportunity before him slip away. Dojun said, "Fuck it," and went all out in his attack. Moments later, the serene flow of the water was broken by a powerful surge. Seodohun had managed to tear the Crios from its territory through sheer willpower alone. Now that they were on solid ground, the tables had turned. Dojun quickly retrieved the subspace, holding in his hand an infinite void, usable for a wide variety of purposes. As soon as snatched away the subspace, the fish lost the light in its eye and died. Its limp corpse fell back into the water while Dojun unconsciously collapsed onto the ground. A few hours later, before the sun had set, some curious birds gathered around the fainted Dojun. He woke up with a sneeze, expelling the water that had entered his system. The birds naturally flew away in fright. Dojun opened his eyes, still exhausted from the intense underwater combat. Luckily, his soaked bag and his sword were still there. It would have been a huge pain to have to go back down into those dark waters to look for them. Remembering what he had just accomplished, he sat up and tested his new skill. First, tolerated this woman for so long. You see, Dojun was born an illegitimate child and lived in poverty. At the age of 7, his mother died, and he barely managed to reach his father's house. With his father, mana emanated around his arm, and he felt the quantitative change that he had experienced. It was evident that his mana capacity had increased tremendously compared to before. Fighting, going up against that flattened fish and risking everything had been worth it for that reason alone. But the real prize after that suffocating fight was the subspace he had stolen. It was the biggest gain of Earth.This his entire career thus far. Now he no longer had to lug around his bag and his sword. He could store them in the void. Free from the burden of carrying his loot and weapon, Dojun stood up, happy, and stretched his limbs. He had already obtained a huge amount of loot from this rift. It was time to call it a day. With the boss defeated, he just had to quickly close the rift and return to his lodgings. It was a beautiful and productive day to be a subspace thief. Married to another woman, he was completely rejected. Everything worsened when the legitimate wife had a child, and Dojun was completely ignored. Things got so bad that he was kicked out of the very house where he lived, so he ended up living with his grandmother alongside his half-brother. As he remembers all of this, he feels pity for the Dojun, who had to endure so much, and still, the entire mall watches them as if they were the main show. The orc woman is totally irritated and about to lose her temper, but then Dojun's stepmother walks in. So, he tried to smile as if he didn't know pain, but now he wants to change everything. It seems this woman is his stepsister, which explains why he tried to restrain himself, but he doesn't plan to bear it any longer. He remembers how he shared a roof with this orc woman, and she's still just as disgusting as before. Not only is her personality rotten and her appearance orcish, but she's also stupid, to the max. He continues to crush her spirit by hurling brutal truths at her, telling her that she's a mess with an inferiority complex so big that she projects her insecurities. Floating in an endless void, he encountered a human boy who came from a planet called Earth. The boy's name was Seodohun, and he was on the verge of calling others ugly. She's nothing more than a gold digger obsessed with criticizing others, and that's the real reality the world should know. As he tears her down with his words, seeing this, the orc woman runs to her mother, acting like the crybaby she is, and complains that Dojun humiliated her with his words. But the mother becomes upset when she sees her daughter behaving this way, and she silences her with a cold glare. I'm not going to lie, the brother has an impressive stepmother. At first, I even thought the orc woman was the stepmother. The mother, an attractive woman, approaches Dojun with impeccable elegance. She invites him back home to spend some quality time, but Dojun knows very well that this facade is a complete lie. After all, she was the one who caused him the most misery during the 12 years he lived with that family. The woman keeps reminding him of things he never wants to remember, triggering his trauma and putting him completely in serious mode. In a tone colder than your mom's jokes, Dojun tells her to go to hell. It's a direct blow to her dignity, being insulted by someone younger than her. She simply turns around and leaves with what little pride she has left. She truly didn't expect him to respond so forcefully. Meanwhile, her daughter, the orc woman, follows her, along with the bodyguards behind them both. Honestly, those guards were like mannequins throughout this whole scene. Let's go back to our boy. It seems these two women totally ruined the moment that he and the girl were sharing, so he decides to leave as well. The way he reacted in front of his in-laws was intentional. He wanted to make one thing clear: the Kodun, who could not defend himself, no longer exists. It's time for that trash family to understand that. Next, we see a Mercedes driving down the road. Inside are the mother and daughter, who are both trash. The daughter is furious with her death for some unknown reason. Before dying, he wanted to make a simple request of Dandian, who refused even before hearing what it was. After all, the boy simply wanted to die. Mother for leaving without putting Doj in his place. She rants angrily, cursing Doj for the humiliation they suffered. The mother orders her manager to explain why Dojun is still. He's alive. The guy is completely baffled because it doesn't align with the reports. The woman shouts at him, demanding answers and questioning how the hell he can still be alive if they made absolutely sure the job was done. Made. The poor man assures her that he will investigate again and ensure the task is handled correctly this time. Meanwhile, the trash daughter remains completely unaware of her mother's dark plans and is left frozen upon hearing words like kill and die. Finally, her mother questions whether she harbors any feelings for Dojun. This leaves the overweight girl utterly bewildered, blushing and becoming flustered. Actually, she is worried that Dojun will die, because if her grandfather or father finds out about it, they will be in serious trouble. The mother grabs her mouth forcefully and orders her to stay away from her. Affairs. The mother is determined to take Dojun's life and has no intention of forgiving him, especially after the way he dared to talk back to her. Getting rid of him is the best revenge he can think of. A decade ago, the world descended into chaos with the emergence of the Rift. This terrifying dimension spawned monsters that poured out of the portal, ready to slaughter any humans they saw. The terror was relentless and unceasing, eventually destroying entire cities, engulfing them in flames. However, just as these dark forces appeared, a light also emerged in the form of brave warriors known as heroes. With their arrival, mana stones were discovered for the first time, harvested from the corpses of the brow, defeated monsters. Returning to the present, Dojun is on his way somewhere. He reflects on how mana stones rapidly changed the world's reliance on. In peace, he was already tired of everything. He had lost his country to monsters, lost his loved ones, and in the end, he died like a dog. Traditional energy sources. Because of their crucial role, countries decided to focus their attention on the emerging rifts, essentially claiming priority over them in order to extract resources. With the world in its current state, all industrialization is completely dependent on the concept of portals and the reliance on heroes. And for that reason, the hero profession offers great rewards. A consistently high salary can only be attained by becoming a true hero. Dojun arrives at his destination, which happens to be the headquarters of the Yanjian OHCS Capital Branch. Yes, it's quite a long name, but you'll soon understand why he's here. He enters the building, and at first glance, the boss and his cronies appear to be common thugs trying to intimidate with their unpleasant faces. But Dojun remains calm. The boss puts out his cigarette and comments on our boy's audacity. Not only did he take down his thugs, but he also had the nerve to show up at their doorstep. That shows that Dojun doesn't give a damn about any of them. He cleverly replies, stating that Dojun is actually the one who is lost out. The statement is absurd. From the boss's point of view, he demands an explanation. Dojun clarifies that he came to receive the compensation that is due to him. After all, he has suffered mental, physical, and material losses because of these clowns. With his firm and serious words, the boss notices something. There's a significant change in the boy's personality. He's no longer the docile and kind spirit he once was. And as further proof, that same boy destroyed the Kalayo that was sent to his door. Considering all of this, the boss suspects that Seodohun must have experienced some kind of awakening, special within a portal. Still, the guy decides to act arrogantly and tells him that his newfound confidence, the product of that awakening, will be his downfall. The hypocrite accuses our boy of being, even though this boy, Seodohun, also didn't want to live. He desperately wished for his family to have a good life, and it seems that Danyan is finally willing to listen to his plea, overconfident in his abilities. To back up his words, he brings in a group of grumpy thugs to intimidate him. Of course, they can bring all the muscle they want, but to someone with the sword god's experience, they're practically insects. The boss keeps spouting nonsense, saying even awakened individuals end up dead, just like those so-called heroes of low rank. The hilarious part is that this guy thinks Seodohun is just a D-class hero, and that his organization can crush him without a problem. Meanwhile, Dojun is sitting calmly on the couch while five guys stare at him, not showing even a hint of amusement. Dojun orders the boss to sit down immediately. The boss is stunned to hear him continue, speaking in that tone, while Dojun, with a serious expression, makes it clear that he isn't finished yet. Hearing that, one of the thugs decides to play tough and challenges Dojun. How amusing. Our guy takes off his glasses, adding to the other's confusion. And then he unleashes a Masson machine gun rocket punch 9,000 right to the face. The guy goes flying from the impact, while his companions are left speechless. But that's not all, because the punishment is distributed amongst the group as Dojun knocks down yet another one, and he does all this while calmly explaining the boss's dirty business dealings hidden under the facade of a loan company. Dojun points his fist at a red-haired guy, demonstrating that he knows all about his fake ID business. After beating him, he tells the boss that he is looking for a hero identity in order to officially register and earn money. Dodging the attack from the last man, Dojun retaliates with triple the force, leaving the entire group asleep with his special bedtime routine. It works 100% of the time. Dojun continues with his demands. Music of this boy. The boy's face lights up like a child in a candy store, and he musters the courage to say that he wants his family to live in peace. Music. He needs a foolproof ID that won't cause him any problems in the future. The boss is paralyzed by what has happened in a matter of seconds. Our guy reminds him that he only has a day to fake his identity. Some bullies didn't even dare to step in. It's a miracle, considering that in most stories, they usually try to fight back. God being level 1. The boss, trembling inside, assesses Dojun's skills. At the very least, he seems to be Class B. He's so lost in thought that the boy has to call him to get his attention to bring him back to his senses. He accepts the job immediately. Finally, Dojun grabs his shoulder gently, but with an intimidating look on his face. He wants to know if Janu, his stepmother, ordered an assassination attempt against him. And yes, that's exactly what happened, as evidenced by her previous conversation with her daughter and her assistant. Boss is speechless until Dojun squeezes his shoulder so hard that the guy screams in pain. Even his lackeys look at him, unsure of what to do, and honestly, they should find a new barber. Also, the boss ends up breaking down and reveals that woman's V strategy, music. Her cruel plan was to completely drain Dojun's bank account, forcing him into such extreme financial instability that he would have no other option but to take his own life. That is the definition of an evil plan, music, especially since it was directed toward her own stepson, even if she despises him. Those music were her orders. After hearing this, and after the man begged and cried enough, music, Dojun releases him, asking if that was also the reason why he was locked inside the portal. The boss, now acting music like a poor innocent, assures him that he had nothing to do with it, and that, furthermore, they wouldn't pay him for the execution if he died inside the portal. Music. That's probably a plausible reason why he couldn't have done something like that. And that leaves Dojun deep in thought, as he pronounces the word can. So our boy gladly accepts the job of protecting the boy's family and appears on Earth. Music. Now, using the body of the teenager Dohun, he has the mission to music. That's probably a plausible reason why he couldn't have done something like that. And that leaves Dohun deep in thought as he pronounces the word Khan, Chulgu, who is actually the name of the guy who took him to the portal in the first place. In essence, Dohun wants to know every single detail about that subject by tomorrow. With his clear demands, he politely retreats, completely changing the atmosphere of the place from the moment he walked in. After that conversation, Dohun is once again immersed in deep thought. The real Seodohun had only one wish, to protect his little sister and his beloved grandmother, no matter what it took. Added to everything else that is happening, it just adds another layer of misery and highlights the life that the poor boy had to endure without being able to defend himself. But there's no need to worry, because the sword god is ready to do what is necessary to set everything right. The next day, guess what? Our guy is officially registered, and furthermore, he has a B rating, which is convenient, unlike so many stories where the protagonist starts with the lowest rank purely for show. Swiping the card through the machine proves his legitimacy, as the system recognizes his identity. However, he warns him that his rank is too low for the dangerous mission he is about to undertake. This annoys Dohun, who thinks that maybe he should have pressured the guy more to give him a higher rank, and thus avoid these problems. Despite the system's repeated warnings not to enter a portal that's far above his level, Dohun doesn't care and enters regardless. Modes. Let's talk about the Night Island portal. It's actually a B-rank portal, but that doesn't guarantee a B-rank hero can survive it. Heroes should always be of a class. Infiltrate the Enson Gate. Music, which is rated C for obvious reasons. Only registered heroes are allowed music to enter, so the automated machine keeps yelling at him, higher than the portal's rank, to ensure mission safety. Still, the dungeon's scale is considered D rank, meaning it extends quite a bit and will be difficult. Hunting solo. The good thing is that it's made up of tunnels, which means that, to a certain extent, hunting alone isn't as complicated for him. This time, due to the size of the portal, it is recommended that an S-rank hero take the mission, but the words risk and danger don't exist in our boy's dictionary. The worst that could happen is that he has to face an entire fleet of monsters in a narrow tunnel with little to no room to move. Dojun smiles at his first opponent, a gigantic snake with a chaotic purple aura. For most heroes, this would be a sign of terror, but for him, it is a sign of good luck as he prepares his gauntlets to begin the battle. Oh, and by the way, the snake isn't alone. It has a lot of little friends. Their tongues look like something straight out of the movie times Alien Asterisk. They try to attack him with everything they've got, but it's useless. Our boy is a killing machine that rampages and gathers mana stones, as if monsters had never existed. The Black Assassin Viper is a type of monster known for its hyperactive, paralyzing venom, capable of taking down anyone with even the slightest contact. With that in mind, Dojun propels himself forward at bullet speed and delivers a full-force blow. In a matter of seconds, he's ready to slash and tear the monster apart all over its body, splashing blood until splitting it in half. Once defeated, Dojun checks his equipment. The gloves he bought prevent the poison from coming into contact with him, and for the price of 300,000 won, they are fulfilling their function. Returning to the house, Dojun turns his attention to 4 more of those ugly, legless lizards and begins to burst their heads with his overwhelming speed. The blood continues splashing, but Dohun eliminates their leader in one fell swoop, literally like a Saitama. The other orcs try to crush him, but he is too fast and powerful, and he destroys them like cockroaches. To scan his ID card, which, music, he obviously doesn't have, he simply walks through the guarded and authorized building to enter the gate, until the Vipers pass on to the afterlife. Dojun stays there, searching for magic stones among the remains, but much to his disappointment, he doesn't find any. This aligns with the rules of the world. These monsters only have a mere 3% drop rate for mana stones, meaning you'll have to hunt hundreds just to get some decent loot. As he continues onward, he discovers the Bonehead Lord. You might think he's the boss, but Dojun has a different idea. Still, he asks the enormous snake if it's the boss, as if the snake would actually answer him like a close friend. Either way, Dojun thinks it's a good thing this big oaf showed up, because he won't have to worry about getting lost anymore. Launching an immediate attack, he plans to quickly end the battle so he can return home, but something unexpected occurs. Although he manages to connect with a brutal hit, his punch has absolutely no effect. The only thing he accomplishes is leaving a tattoo-like mark on its head. While he's suspended in the air, unable to dodge, the creature whips him against the wall with its tail. Dojun crashes down, and that probably gives him a harsh reality check regarding the boss's strength. The monster bares its poisonous fangs and stalks him like an average girlfriend when she's hungry. The creature tries to bite him, but he narrowly dodges the attack. Seizing the opportunity, he launches forward again with a powerful punch, creating even more cracks in the monster's tough armor. With this second attack, he realizes something. The boss has an extremely resilient exterior, much tougher than the other vipers he eliminated. The armor is so strong for his current level that he can't penetrate it with a single blow. This completely changes the situation and forces him to think of a strategy beyond simply relying on his strength. The sword god would have made short work of this beast, but suddenly, he notices something. The sword of a warrior who lost his, activating the security alarms due to the infiltration. Once inside, he starts walking around, looking for monsters to crush. That's when he runs into a group of heroes, people with life fighting the boss. And now you'll understand why they call him the god of the sword and not the god of the fist. Although the weapon is extremely worn, he picks it up, convinced that a sword is as competent as the one who wields it. With that thought and the blade in hand, he walks toward the monstrous snake. The creature launches itself with great speed to attack him once more. Dojun responds, leaping high into the air, proudly declaring that the creature should feel honored that he will use a sword to kill it. Despite the terrible condition of the sword, Dojun unleashes so many slashes, blindingly fast in a matter of seconds, leaving the snake's body in shreds. The serious fight ends with a comic touch. The snake dies in the background, while our boy's sword is reduced to dust. It's a good thing he eliminated the creature while it was still putting up a fight. With the boss monster dead, Dojun comes up with a clever idea that I don't usually see in many other protagonists. He rips off one of the creature's fangs, believing that it could serve as a good material for a short sword with a little refinement. Considering it as a reward for his journey, he leaves the gate. By the time he exits, it's already a starry night. He spent more time at the B-rank gate than he anticipated, especially with how things turned out. That only drives him to keep moving forward and fully recover his strength. Plus, he's somewhat relieved that his old friends don't have to witness this weakened version of himself, because it would be shameful. Returning from the hunt, he goes to appraise and sell the magic stones. Another hunter is in front of him, presenting their sizable collection of stones. The stingy receptionist treats him like garbage and points out that the commission is the same, 40%. Music. Even an inexperienced person can sense that this is an exorbitant rate. He voices his concerns, mentioning official licenses and permission to be there. They assume our guy is lost and offer to show him the way out, especially since they are also heading that he's just an ordinary guy. Music. The receptionist, just as he did with Dohun, clarifies that this rate is the lowest among all the appraisal businesses. The gate center charges 5%, but without taxes. From the lowly appraiser's perspective, it's a great deal for heroes looking to earn good money. They hand over the cash to the hero who doesn't complain too much, other than asking with concern about the mess the employee has on his face. The funniest thing is how this guy keeps repeating the same script even after that his face was destroyed. The guy covers it up by claiming that a psychopath first obliterated his guards and then left him like that. The hero believes it's actually the receptionist's fault for having such low-ranking guards at a C-level post. After all, rank isn't the only thing that matters in their world. Skill also plays a huge role. Rank is actually a false representation of actual skills and is only updated to keep the system functioning. The hero wisely points out that people of the same rank can have a huge difference in abilities, so they cannot be treated equally. He also mentions the difference between a mediocre guard who spends all the day sitting and watching the store, and a hero who is out there hunting beasts to earn a living. Although this guy is giving him some pretty solid advice, the clown receptionist just wants him to stop talking and leave, which he does, offering to help him if he ever needs anything. As he leaves, our guy passes right by him, looking as cold as ever. Seeing this, the receptionist shudders and begins to tremble. He points at Dojun and shouts that he's the psychopath who left him in such a mess. When turning outside, Dojun remains silent, emanating a strange vibe. Even these heroes can notice that something is wrong. He's wearing casual clothes and doesn't look like a hero at all. Sure, to confront them, the hero is quite impressed. He notes Dojun's slim build for his height. Still, the fact that he destroyed the guards makes him prepare to fight, asking if he's the one causing all the trouble. What I like about this guy is that he doesn't get offended by petty things. He genuinely thinks Dojun is abusing his powers as a hero to intimidate civilians in their everyday lives. Of course, that couldn't be further from the truth, since he only knows a fraction of the story, but it's interesting to see realistic character receptionist is enjoying the scene, knowing that this guy is a 7-year veteran hero. If anything happens to him, he has plenty of connections he can use to take down Dohun by using his name. Not caring who he is, our guy turns around and simply tells the veteran to leave. That provokes the man because suddenly it really looks like Dojun is acting like a jerk. Dojun asks him if he's looking for revenge. Hearing that, the veteran hero feels provoked. However, being a responsible hero with his level of experience, he knows that fighting other heroes is an extremely reckless act, as it almost always results in fatalities. In fact, the chances of dying in a fight between heroes are even higher than in a fight against monsters. Remembering this fact, the guy suddenly calms down, turns around. He turns around and leaves, leaving the receptionist speechless. Dojun then turns to the sleazy appraiser and asks if he has any problems he wants to resolve. Before the guy can answer, Dojun throws a bag full of magic stones at him to appraise and convert into money. These precious stones are of a high grade, which makes the receptionist, gatekeepers nowadays dress more casually, but our guy's outfit is far too simple. And what's with that backpack on his back? For all they know, he's probably wonder who the hell this guy is. After calculating, the total sum amounts to 150 million. It seems like a lot at first glance, but for Dojun, it is very little for a day's hunt. He asks for the money, but the receptionist reminds him that they have to deduct the commission, which, of course, earns our boy a terrifying glare. Remembering that his deal is only 1%, Dojun calms down and he tells her to prepare the remainder. In the appraiser's mind, he wants to punch the bastard for having such audacity, but he can only do it in his imagination. The receptionist explains that they need management approval for such a large sum. Wasting no time, Dojun demands that it be approved immediately. The receptionist quickly calls his boss, whispering the details, but before he can finalize the deal, Dojun snatches the phone and directly tells the boss to expedite the payment. The boss agrees, but asks for the phone to be returned to the employee. With pleasure, Dojun returns it by smashing it against the wall. The employee trembles, seeing his phone destroyed, while Dojun orders him to prepare the money now that everything is. And with that, the receptionist prepares numerous bags filled with money for the transaction. In the end, the guy is devastated at having been forced into this situation. Maybe some will feel sorry for him, but remember, he swindled almost half of what ordinary heroes who risk their lives earn. He's a disgrace. 10 minutes passed, and the boss quickly arrived at his store, furious because his employee wasn't answering the phone. The funny thing is that the receptionist immediately gives up and submits his resignation on the spot. Then, the boss sees the guy's phone smashed against the wall, giving him a good idea of what happened. Seeing this, he takes out his own phone to call Jian and ask her to come over immediately. Jian turns out to be a famous young woman with beautiful, clueless gatekeeper who was abandoned by the portal from which he came, although they aren't so sure either. Finally, Dojun speaks, acknowledging why they are so skeptical, but he makes it clear, purple rose hair. She is so recognizable in public that people shout her name, compliment her, and treat her like a celebrity. Not to mention she looks incredible in that outfit. She arrives at the store and leaves the receptionist was frozen by his presence, greeting him with a lovely smile. There's a significant reason why everyone is making such a fuss about her. She's the country's 4th S-rank hero, nothing short of astonishing. Rumors circulate that she's the boss's niece, leading him to wonder, what is she doing here? Confirming the rumors, Jian explains that she was summoned at her uncle's request to deal with a reckless hero. Intrigued by the situation, the stylish S-rank heroine sits down, ready to hear what's happening. In the following scene, we see our protagonist with his perfectly defined and muscular physique, meditating under the sun. It's true that he spent the entire day hunting, but the rewards he obtained weren't particularly impressive. With how things are developing, he's worried about the future. First and foremost, he needs to reach a level where he can clear S-rank gates on his own. That means training to recover his original strength. That's right, everyone. It's time for the training arc. Dojun's biggest challenge in this life is that, unlike in his previous world, the mana density in this world is low. That means that even if he tries his best to absorb mana at his current rate, it will take him at least 3 years to approach his original strength, even longer if things get complicated. On the other hand, he could aim to acquire better combat equipment, but the problem is that even the most basic equipment costs hundreds of millions, so that would be a waste. Suddenly, a chill runs down his spine as he senses the presence of someone dangerous. Fixing his gaze on Junin, he picks up the girl at full speed and orders everyone to go inside the house, who came alone, not belonging to any hero group. Hearing this, one of the heroes sighs, understanding the reason for the boy's presence. He's seen many cases of people who get excited and, once inside, he closes the room while his grandmother anxiously asks him what's happening. The entire structure shakes with a loud crash, making his grandmother jump and ask, terrified that they're experiencing an earthquake. Little Junion is in a panic, but Dojun knows the truth. It's not an earthquake. It's something else entirely. He senses a sharp and violent energy emanating from outside. A crack has just opened in their world, manifesting directly above their house. Anxious to deal with the problem, he tells his loved ones to stay inside because the veined situation outside is too dangerous for them. At top speed, he launches himself toward the entrance of the crack, and the last thing he hears is his grandmother and sister screaming his name. The scene shifts to the Seoul Hero Association, where its members are immediately put on high alert due to the sudden appearance of a crack above the Mapo region. It appeared 63 days after the previous one. Realizing that the White Lion Guild is the closest to Mapo, the person in charge orders them to contact the guild immediately and alert any heroes in the vicinity to help control the situation. Upon further inspection of the exact location, they discover that the rift appeared directly above a residential house, which complicates matters even for them, because if a civilian accidentally enters the rift, they are practically doomed. Furthermore, the rift doesn't allow anyone else to enter afterward, and if the person inside dies, it will unleash a surge of monsters in 10 days, causing chaos and destruction throughout the region. The surge would be so uncontrollable that the security of Seoul would be completely compromised. The person in charge wants to know who interacted with the rift. It turns out, they know that Seodohun took action, since he is the resident of that house. According to his grandmother, he entered the rift to protect his family. With that, they want to become monster-hunting heroes after seeing flashy ads on TV. But that burst of motivation can quickly kill you if you enter a gate without following information. They assume he is not a hero, and that complicates everything, because the chances of a civilian returning alive from a rift are practically zero. This causes widespread despair. Helplessness spread among all the staff, as there was nothing they could do. In the next scene, we see Dojun's stepmother, furious upon hearing the news of his reawakening. She is in disbelief. Her assistant reports that although he hasn't officially registered with the Hero Association, they have already confirmed that Dojun awakened during his last gate. This frustrates her because Kan Chul-gu was supposed to finish the job, but instead, he only made their target even stronger. Enraged, she slams her fist on the table, demanding to know why the hell they couldn't kill him themselves. The fact that they charged money for a failed job on top of everything else is another reason for her anger. Yelling at manager Lee, she expresses her frustration towards Kan Chul-gu by sending him a message. If he doesn't kill Dojun personally, he will owe her 10 times the amount paid. But to her surprise, her assistant reveals something unexpected. Perhaps they no longer need to contact him. They share news of the new rift that appeared directly above Dohun's house. After confirming he entered it, they believe it's clear he won't be coming out alive. Honju is pleased to hear the news and its implications, that he won't survive. Music. He composes himself, appearing normal for the first time, and instructs his assistant to continue evaluating the situation until further information is received. Music. Meanwhile, our boy has just arrived in the rift's domain. It's a forest, and in fact, music. It's the very same forest where he spent his youth enjoying himself and relaxing. The Patispa forest is exactly the same, reconstructed music, down to the smallest detail that he remembers. Even the dense concentration of mana is exactly the same. Music. Following the path, he smiles as he, legal procedures. First, you must officially certify yourself as a hero. Then you go through training and testing. And besides, this gate is C rank for a reason. If you are, reconnects with the almighty world tree. This tree exudes mana in its purest form, the most divine structure, and music, the core of the world's stability. So much so, that when the world fell. It all began when this tree was burned to the ground, forever altering the flow of mana. Under normal conditions, the ideal strategy, ideally, it would be to continue gathering mana from the world tree. However, in this fissure dimension, the tree is intact, and exactly as he remembers it. Although the cause is unknown, there is one thing for sure. He has a chance to regain the mana he lost by absorbing it from the tree. Meditating under the excellent flow of energy, our boy is becoming more and more aware of his full force. He spent more than 3 days sitting exactly like this, forgetting to eat, drink, or attend to his bodily needs. A full 10 days passed, and all he was concentrating on was harmonizing his breathing. At the end of the 10th night, trouble came looking for him and disturbed his meditation. These alien-looking creatures, they're called Bolsina, and they've come to burn the tree, just like they did before. But this time, our protagonist is there to stop the tragedy from repeating itself. The creatures surge forward to attack him, while Tofu laments not having a water element sword to easily defeat them. The fiery monsters appear and advance towards him, but our hero is so overflowing with mana that he no longer needs a weapon. He times the weapon, and those hands are classified as Class E for everyone. Reaching out towards the monsters, he wields such authority with just his mana that he takes one of them down. The second monster is stunned by his power. Let's break down what just happened. Starting your career, you're better off looking for an F-rank gate before you actually lose your life. After listening to him talk non-stop, giving unsolicited advice, Dojun makes it clear that he doesn't need help. What he did is called mana release, and while it's not exactly telekinesis, it's an explosion-type attack that uses pure mana as a detonator. It had been a while since he'd used this skill, considering he had been low on reserves the entire time. In any case, the Bolsina creatures aren't finished yet. To counterattack, they launch volleys of energy charged from their mouths. These laser pulses rapidly advance toward our boy, who looks calmer than ever. His mana alone is enough to protect him from any damage. Advancing toward the creatures in a burst of energy, he comments that he has finally protected the world tree and is now ready to have a little fun and enjoy the fruits of his training. The ugly bastards attempt another energy attack, but our boy quickly catches two of them and forces their mouths shut so that they cannot open them. Thus, their own ability charges and explodes inside, leaving behind a headless corpse made of flames. The creatures' bodies disintegrate, leaving two valuable magic stones that he can use drop, but those are just a couple. Dojun, who is mastering life, is thrilled to unlock something called the Eternal Ember after defeating these guys. He cuts through the monsters with glee, knocking them down with a smile as he makes his way through. He's finally able to steal a good amount of mana stones from them. The one-sided massacre continues until he finishes them all off. Dojun has hit the jackpot with the number of stones they are dropping. Among them, he also finds a small coin or seed that shines gold. This is called the Ember, Eternal, and he takes it in his hand. With this, he regains even more control of his power by crushing the piece and releasing its flames. The way he plays with the Ember reminds me of Gojo Satoru from Jujutsu Kaisen. From one of the orcs, he loots a rare magic stone that can further increase his abilities. Satisfied with his find, Dojun prepares to leave, but a group of guys from the Y. Naturally, the group of heroes is perplexed by the boy's coldness. After all, they were just trying to help, so they get a little upset, but their leader tells them to calm down. Now, under normal circumstances, the ideal strategy would be to continue absorbing the mana from the world tree. However, his body has reached its physical limit for mana absorption. The second way to do this is by absorbing the Ember, which completely alters the state of his mana, transforming it into fire mana. And as he does so, his body releases a surge of energy, making him flaming. Unfortunately, in his previous life, he didn't feel the need to do this, and didn't consider the Eternal Ember important. But now he needs to absorb it completely, and it takes about 10 minutes to process each one. Luckily, he's gathered quite a few of them, so his goal is to absorb as many as he can. The appearance of the rift has sparked enormous public interest. Reporters have gathered around our protagonist's house, while agents and association staff are protecting the area. Jong is furious at the arrogance of the guy who entered the rift ahead of schedule. I should point out that he looks like an identical copy of Ju from Solo Leveling, but with a tidier haircut, I suppose. We also see our other protagonist, but with blue hair. This individual is Kim Jong-gu, and he sympathizes with Dojun's actions to save his sister. However, Zonggu doesn't believe that explanation at all, accusing him of our guy coming in acting like a greedy person who wasn't ready for the consequences. It would have been fine if he had eliminated himself in a normal way. But if he dies inside the crack, the place will turn into a detonation field, allowing monsters to pour out, and that's the real problem. Jonggu asks for Hilma's opinion, and apparently, Hilma told them to follow protocol. Zonggu questions the recent appearance of cracks in various countries, including the United States, China, Switzerland, Turkey, and the United Kingdom. That's one of the reasons why. The boy doesn't want help, so just leave him be. The leader is certain this boy will learn the hard way, because you shouldn't cover your ears when a wise person is speaking, and they're waiting. Hilma is having such a hard time managing so many cracks simultaneously. This phenomenon doesn't happen every day, and even so, some nations were able to contain the threat with ease. But in South Korea, people are incredibly angry because one man could turn their situation into a complete disaster. Sungu is so upset that he wants to punch the guy who came in, begging for the rift to expel him. Speaking of the gigantic purple gate, it has been 28 days since its appearance, which is also the amount of time Dojun has spent inside. Now, the Hero Association is frightened and has already classified the threat as a level 1 wave. Dojun's identity has not yet been revealed to the public for reasons of privacy, so for now, they're calling him Ordinary Person S, while the rest of the world has no idea who he is. The head of the money-lending organization quickly connects the pieces. His assistant confirms the report, verifying that he is indeed involved. Kim Yongo acts as President Han Chong's right-hand man. Chonsup is curious and wants to know, what are the chances of Dojun surviving and coming out unscathed? Yes, I said, come out unscathed as a channel ritual. The One Piece is real. Moving on, the assistant is quite certain that an ordinary person has less than a 1% chance of surviving, but the mere suggestion of treating Dojun like an ordinary civilian brings an amused smile to Chansu's face. That so-called normal civilian sent his men to the hospital, leaving them bandaged for weeks. From the world's perspective, they are drastically underestimating the abilities of the only civilian who entered the rift. Now Chansu also wants to know what the chances of survival are for someone who is awakened. To determine that, his assistant believes that ultimately, let him discover just how unforgiving these gates are, unlike those TV shows that glorify being a hero as if it's the second coming of Christ. And soon, Dohun finally. It would depend on the hero's level, and it's difficult to make an accurate judgment without precise information. Even Chansu admits that combat prowess is different from survivability, pure survival. And then, being inside a crevasse introduces a completely different level of complications. Either way, one thing is certain, the bastard hasn't changed his stripes. Sangok wants to protect Dojun's family, but not for noble reasons. No, this scoundrel plans to sell his loved one's organs if Dojun doesn't return. And even if he does come back, he plans to burden Dojun with a huge debt for taking care of them. This guy is the very definition of a parasite. The scene then shifts to the mesmerizing world tree. Here, our boy is advancing at full speed in his training arc, as his body now thrives on fire mana. He doesn't even know how much time has passed, but he's been working hard, absorbing hundreds of firestones. Fire. With this, he has obtained so much mana that he can use and manipulate it however he wants, not to mention that his resistance to flames has increased as a side effect. Comparing his past self, only in terms of the fire attribute, believes that he has surpassed his former self to a small extent by mastering this ability. Embracing the world tree, they share a moment. He feels tender towards him, as he has always helped him in times of need, both in the past and now. That's why Dohun is grateful for everything he has done for him. As for his mana stones, he fashioned a small bag using vines to hold them all. With the stones collected and stored, Dojun fully understands that he will probably never see the heavenly tree again. Still, he hopes that their paths will cross again if the divine tree is ever in danger again, because when that happens, he will be ready to protect it with his life. I don't know about you all. Runs into a giant troll who stares him down, ready to devour him. The monster launches an attack, but misses, slamming into the ground. The protagonist moved so fast that the troll didn't even fight, but I really and truly enjoyed this soft and emotional scene. That night, Dojun goes out into the outside world, emerging whole from the rift. Luckily, he doesn't sense anyone nearby. He suspects that most must have assumed he was already dead inside, and that a monster wave could appear at any moment. However, upon detecting the presence of someone strong nearby, it decides to pursue them and takes off at full speed to locate the source. Shortly after, he encounters two agents, one angry and the other relaxed, the same Jonggu and Shungu from last time. He now understands that these guys likely represent the association just based on their uniforms, meaning that if he's caught, things will become very complicated. To avoid that problem, he gathers a sphere of fire and launches it into the air with brutal force. The attack ends up crashing into a building, causing a powerful explosion upon detonation. Jonggu and Shungu immediately go on high alert as soon as they hear the loud crash. Noticing that it's fire, they decide to head towards it. There, they find a group of horrified people. Music Shungu. He asks what the hell is going on amidst the chaos. Meanwhile, our boy is impressed by his fiery power. Its precision is good, so it will be very useful to him, as he remembers the memory of his old friend Tusk, and he wonders if the mage would be impressed with his current level of flames. After all, Tusk was known as the most powerful fire mage on the Thidi continent, and they shared a great bond. Suddenly, Jonggu's keen senses alert him to look toward the rift. It seems to be acting strangely, and, Right before his eyes, it disappears into the fog. Both agents rush to the scene to see what is happening. When they arrive, they can't believe that the rift's connection to their world even have time to process it. What the hell just happened? Then Dojun clenches his fist and unleashes a devastating blow, strong enough to blow the orc's face off in a single hit. It's completely disappeared. For his part, our boy simply moved toward his next destination without any issues. The next morning, news breaks regarding the state of the O. The rift that lasted a month in Mapo disappeared 29 days after Seodohun entered the area, proving the association's concerns. Heroes regarding the monster wave were unfounded. They have no idea what caused the sudden disappearance and are investigating the incident. They are also looking into the origin of the fire that erupted in a junkyard at the same time the rift vanished. This leads the majority to believe that Dojun is dead, and that this is simply a consequence of his actions. Unbeknownst to everyone, our boy is hiding in plain sight, observing the divided opinions of the people, with some sympathizing with the young man who lost his life. Sadly, the disappearance of the rift is heartbreaking news for our hero. He's devastated that he can no longer interact with the world tree. Although he can no longer protect the tree itself, there is still something else he can protect, and that brings us back to the HCS capital. Inside, the idiots are celebrating Dojun's death, believing they'll be able to easily get rid of his grandmother and sister afterward. Chang, is the kind of person who will squeeze someone dry. After all, one of the bastards mentions that they should let the little sister grow up so they can use her in other ways. While they're chatting carelessly, a familiar voice greets them and asks to see their boss. The scene cuts there, and we see Chang humming as he enjoys his day, satisfied that Dojun is finally out of his way and dead for good. Basically something straight out of One Punch Man or Omni-Man in the middle of a massacre. With the monster out of the way, now for the juicy part. Time to loot, baby. First, he grabs the sword that the troll was carrying. His assistant reviews the appointments. Day. Apparently, he's free almost all the time, except for a lunch meeting with another CEO. Hearing this, he's happy because he'll be able to go clubbing tonight under Madame Kang's watch. He basically babbles nonsensically until he enters the building, and as he climbs the stairs, he finds his men lying around like rag dolls. Blood is splattered everywhere, and the person responsible is someone he believed to be dead. Our guy throws him to the ground and orders the disgusting Chang to crawl over like a dog. That chilling command makes the stock company president. Our guy acts like the true leader of the group and takes a seat in the president's chair. He then repeats his command to the ignorant Chang, who is still processing the weight of that humiliation. Without wasting any time, Chang crawls like a dog. As ruthless as ever, Dojun orders him to bark, stating that he deserves to be treated like an animal. The command, loud and clear, makes Chang Jima, humiliation. It takes him a second to bark, but our boy isn't satisfied. He personally makes sure to turn him into an animal, forcing him to bark repeatedly for everyone to hear. The president is reduced to something less than human, just as he treats others. Dojun points out that scumbags like him only act obedient on the surface, but end up stabbing you in the back when they have the opportunity. Stating his disgusting name, he coldly tells him that in his life, he has had many experiences dealing with second-rate humans like him, pleading and begging for mercy. Chanzo is willing to serve as a loyal dog if necessary, but Dojun has heard enough and delivers a brutal slap across his face. Just that blow is enough. Unfortunate. He then uses that same sword to open the monster's body and extract a glowing stone. It's a low-grade magic stone, so insignificant that Dojun would never have bothered with them in his previous life. But since he's now penniless, he has no choice to leave him breathless and make him spit blood. His assistant watches the scene unfold until he hears his name called. Dojun names him the new boss of the company and tells him he recommends that he stop working for a bastard like that. Knowing that these types are always ready to stab you in the back, he orders his assistant to kill Chan, giving him full permission. Of course, it's too much of a burden for a competent servant like himself. He apologizes and refuses, explaining that his leader has many connections and that things would get terrible if he were appointed chief instead of Chango. On his behalf, the assistant begs Dojun to spare his life yet again. However, Dojun doesn't want to continue playing games with empty words in front of them. He suggests wrapping Chan's body in a barrel and erasing all traces by throwing it into the endless ocean. After all, that's the kind of thing these people accept. Seeing that the servants of the boss are unwilling to obey, Dojun takes a different approach. He threatens the entire group, saying he will throw them into the portal as monster food if they don't comply with the order. Yes, just the mention. That reduces Chang Sahab to a pathetic, broken mess. He can't take it anymore, continuing to beg for his life and promising that he will never betray Dohun, vowing to serve him forever. This makes the hero pause thoughtfully. Although he could kill Chang Sahab right here and eliminate all of his problems, something has changed within him in this life. He admits that Dojun has become softer compared to his ruthless self from the past. So this time, he accepts Chang Sahab by offering him his hand. I'm sure Chang Sahab is about to become more religious than ever, praying that he doesn't irritate Dohun again. He takes the hero's hand, promising to serve him unconditionally from this moment forward. But wait, something's not right here. Why is his hand engulfed in burning flames? He had been bothered by them in his previous life, but since he is now penniless, he has no choice. Suddenly, more monsters invade the area, furious after seeing their companion decapitated. Dojun turns around and throws the magic stone so fast that it literally blows them apart. Yes, even though Dojun may have softened somewhat, he is still ruthless at his core. Staring him directly in the eyes, he reminds the unfortunate wretch that this is truly his last and final chance. Dojun proceeds to ripping his hand clean off, reducing it to a charred, pulpy mess. At the end of the meeting, he departs, ignoring the president's agonizing screams, but leaving them with a final warning. If even a single one of them dares to interfere with his family, Dohun will personally take care of killing them. As for their new task, they are all eternally responsible for protecting his family for the remainder of their lives. This is how traitors are dealt with. Officially, the man known as Seodohun was just a fleeting spark of existence that vanished along with the crack. In reality, he is peacefully eating at a local McDonald's. The government, the Heroes Association, and all kinds of media outlets quickly moved on, treating it as old news. Everyone assumed that the civilian who entered the crack had perished. Even if he were to reappear and claim he was alive, no one would believe him. Furthermore, to reappear after a solo raid, only bringing headaches. That domesticated dog, Huan Chanza, is now helping him find a new and suitable house so he can move with peace of mind for the time being. Dojun was finally able to 1. Give his sister some delicious fast food. He also told her about his plan to move to a better neighborhood, and she couldn't be happier. Now she will be able to go to kindergarten like the other children of her age and enter primary school next year. But when they mention school, little Junion's spirits drop. That alarms Dohun. He is used to slaughtering abominable beasts, but comforting a child is not one of his skills. He is surprised when his sister confesses that other children make fun of her for being an orphan. Listening to he turns around and throws the magic stone so fast that it literally blows one of their heads off. The other 2 idiots charge at him as if they have a death wish they want to fulfill, and Dojun is more than happy to grant it. Adorable sister's suffering breaks Big Brother Dohun's heart. If she doesn't want to associate with those cruel children, she doesn't have to. Those brats will pay for what they did sooner or later. Knowing that she won't have to go to kindergarten and be bullied anymore, Junion is happy. Meanwhile, Dojun starts planning to send his little sister to a prestigious private school where no one would even think of looking down on her. That night, Sojun finds out that Chin Yonggu had put his grandmother and sister in some random motel while he was stuck in the rift. That jerk almost broke his back, apologizing, claiming that the motel belongs to his company and that it was safer than anywhere else. Dojun doesn't have the energy to deal with that, so he just goes into the room and sees his grandmother again. Little Junion jumps on him, giving him a bear hug, and Grandma holds his hand, tears welling up in her eyes. He's just happy to see his grandson come back alive. At first, the battle-hardened warrior freezes, but feeling the warmth of his family, he accepts their love with a smile. The little Junion likes McDonald's, so they have been eating at that absolutely real place very often. Today, she asks about her brother's job as a hero. When she asks if she likes having a hero as a brother, Junion bluntly answers no. Although it's great that heroes are strong and cool, they are also in constant danger fighting against scary monsters. Sometimes they even die. And little Junion just wants her brother to live with her and their grandmother for a very, very long time. Dojun, who is accustomed to senseless slaughter, feeling that someone cares about his well-being is something new to him. In the harsh world of the past, he was the last surviving human. He fought monsters and creatures beyond. Comply, and Dojun is more than happy to grant it. While he's wreaking havoc, we return to the group of heroes trudging through this monster-infested territory. At that moment, their minds are still stuck on the encounter they had with that young man. Imaginable horrors. In the process, he lost many things. Now that he has received a second chance in a different world, something tremendously valuable has appeared by his side. Feelings that he had forgotten. They return to the surface. In this world, perhaps he can live happily. Maybe he can lead a peaceful life, full of joy and and love. While he feels that warmth in his chest, the Korean Hero Association. The Korean Hero Association is in disarray. Nate Wong, founder of the Korean Hero Association and director of the World Hero Federation, is concerned about the recent incident involving the crack, or rather, the lack thereof. Their best agents have investigated the site, but found no new information. Not having any idea of the state of his territory frustrates the founder. It's not crazy to think that a crack that disappears spontaneously could reappear at any time. His assistant tries to support his concerns, commenting that it would have been better if a surge had occurred. At least they wouldn't have to worry about unknown variables. Director Taewon interrupts her before she irritates him further. Although it is worried about the uncertainty of the situation, he at least feels fortunate that no one was injured. Nawang is one of the 100 most respected and strongest heroes in the world. It is widely speculated that, if he were to run as a candidate, he would be elected president with the highest number of votes in history. His words and influence could easily bring down national conglomerates, if he wanted to. Fortunately, he has no interest in the power of a national leader, nor in the wealth of a conglomerate. The only thing he cares about is the safety of his people. In other words, he's one of the genuine ones. Even though it will take time, he wants a much more thorough investigation around the perimeter of the rift. The residents of the area have already agreed to. Guild that owns that dungeon finds him, and they are not at all happy that he cleaned it out. They have the numerical advantage, and since they are of high rank, they are confident that they can easily defeat. At that moment, their minds are still trapped in the encounter they had with that young man. The red-haired woman is really worried about Dojun's well-being, fearing that he might end up dead. Sell their properties to the association, so that won't be a problem. As compensation, Taiwan intends to offer them a price above the market value for their homes. The least they can do after causing such a massive inconvenience. All reliable sources have reported that multiple rifts have appeared in different countries. From any perspective, something is definitely happening. The United States and China have already entered the management phase of their rifts. Among the major nations, the United Kingdom is facing the most significant issue. While veteran and dependable heroes have been dispatched to clear the other rifts, the UK squad proved to be utterly useless. Speaking of which, the one-month mission to eliminate the United Kingdom's rift has finally crumbled into a devastating defeat. The UK rift wave has officially begun. The city and its inhabitants continue with their day as if nothing is amiss. Among the crowd is CEO Jun, blending in with the pedestrians. His destination is his favorite store within the hero complex. As he crosses the threshold, the counter attendant greets him instinctively, but chokes as soon as he sees his face. Every hair on his body stands on end in terror at the sight of the black-haired young man. Fortunately, the manager is in the store today. So he won't have to deal with this sadistic customer alone. The manager closes his newspaper and looks up, his voice controlled but laced with annoyance. That's the guy who's been forcing his weak cashier to buy low-quality crystals. Dojun reluctantly takes off his backpack and throws it to the ground. It's a good thing the manager is here, so the sale of his magic crystals, will proceed more quickly. The manager anticipates another pile of low-quality crystals falling to the floor. He isn't interested in that kind of small-time business. Dojun doesn't like being rejected. The group leader reassures her, telling her that it is very unlikely. If he is some unauthorized intruder who entered the gate on his own, the control center agents will find him sooner or later, when all he wants is a fair deal. The manager, or any business owner with common sense, can't afford to accept only a 1% commission. He would prefer that the young man will simply walk away. Down claims that refusing to do business with him would be a huge mistake that the manager will regret. The manager continues to throw him out without even looking at him. This will be his last warning before things get ugly. In response, Down kicks the backpack, causing its contents to spill all over the tiles. As experienced crystal dealers, both the cashier and the manager immediately recognize the properties of those stones. That rustic sack is full of magic crystals, of Hero, a legendary treasure that not even money can buy. Down has a rough idea of how valuable they are, and knows he's bringing top-notch merchandise. The magic Hero crystal was used by the infamous Mexican drug lord Carselian in the manufacture of a new drug. One night, a laboratory accident changed the course of his life, and the world's perspective on that small rock. The crystal awakened him as a powerful hero, and has since become an invaluable artifact for heroic awakenings and mana enhancements. Such an incredibly rare energy source can only be classified as an ultra-premium commodity. As a display of power, Dojun orders the men to store everything. again, and turns around to leave. The manager instantly shifts his arrogant and dismissive tone to one that is friendly and accommodating. He even escorts the young man to the VIP seats and offers him refreshments, while the cashier polishes the crystals. Dojun loves it when the tables are turned. 1 second they were kicking him out, and the next he's enjoying an ice-cold drink. His first demand is, those agents on a mission are always B rank or higher, and since this is a C rank gate, there's no way he would die here. While the boy, full price with a 0.5% commission. The moment the manager shows resistance, Dojun threatens to cancel the deal. In previous transactions, Dojun accepted 1%. Now he's lowering that already ridiculous number even further. Frankly, he's just doing it to be a pain. The manager bows his head, trying to offer the most sincere apology possible. But Dohun is tired of empty apologies. They either accept his rate, or he'll take his business elsewhere. It's that simple. At the counter, the cashier inwardly curses Dohun for being so rude, since his performance doesn't convince the guy to give him a higher percentage. The manager focuses and begins a long explanation about the crystal market and its prices. Dohun stops listening to the endless chatter. Endless. He finishes his drink and stands up, causing the manager to panic. Feeling the deal of a lifetime slipping through his fingers, the manager offers a 9% commission. It works, so he proposes 8% and continues like this. 8, 7, 6, 5. At that range, the store would make absolutely no profit. As the manager sinks further into despair, Dohun pounces, and he accepts the 1% out of respect for their past dealings. Inside, the manager wants to scream and curse at the blatant extortion, but he can't afford to let a product like this go away. Dojun's next words nearly make the manager love himself with excitement. In addition to what he brought today, he has about 7 more bags of those invaluable crystals. That being said, the contract is immediately drawn up and signed. After a few minutes of formalities, 67 billion won, approximately $48 million, is deposited into Dojun's account. At this rate, his 110 billion won house doesn't seem so far off anymore. The problem is that acquiring more high-quality crystals through normal portals is too time-consuming. If he could, avoids recklessly charging against the monsters, he doesn't risk losing his life. The bald man agrees with his leader's assessment. He is quite sure that arrogant kid must find a way to travel freely through the rift zones. He could harvest treasures like a maniac. As he checks his phone, an administrative message is sent out nationwide. The wave in the southern region of the United Kingdom has finally been announced to the public, and from now on, everyone is banned from traveling to the UK after learning about a real-world issue. Actually, Dohun loses interest in bothering the store manager anymore. In the past, regardless of the country or association involved, he might have intervened to seal the rift himself, but he's not that type of person anymore. He has more important and satisfying matters to attend to. Tonight, dinner is on Dohun, and they're going to eat expensive meat. Little Junion's mouth waters at the sight of the pork and marbled meat on the grill. Premium meat and succulent side dishes continue to arrive at the table. Worried that they were spending too much, considering the price of the menu, the grandmother slowed down and asked her grandson if he was sure everything was alright, as 250,000 won for 140 was quite low. Dojun immediately dispelled her concerns. Having made a fortune from their crystal harvest, they could eat as much as they wanted without even making a dent in their bank account. Junion's first bite made her fall in love with the taste of that luxuriously exquisite meat. Dojun continued to put more and more on the grill, while Grandma watched with apprehension. And there was still another package of fresh ribs, prime ribeye, strip steak, and skirt steak that were about to arrive at the table. At this point, the sheer quantity was simply ridiculous. How could 2.5 people finish so much food? Well, Grandma was underestimating the appetite of a protagonist. To ease her worries, little Junion convinced Grandma to try the be shaking with fear, waiting for the agents to come and save his ass from the disaster. Well, the story is quite the opposite. It's our boy who is literally making these expensive food. Unable to refuse her sweet girl's offer, Grandma relented. A single bite of that costly meat was enough to make all her worries disappear. From that point on, the happy family enjoyed their extravagant dinner, filled with smiles and laughter. Unbeknownst to Dojun, a striking young woman had just entered the restaurant, drawing attention. Customers nearly strained their necks as she passed by. The woman walked directly towards Seodohun and decisively caught his attention, stating she only wanted to speak with him for a moment, nothing more. Before he could explain her reason for approaching, Dojun apologized for potentially ruining his family's dinner. He suggested that if she wanted to tell him something, she should return after the meal was over. June then took out her business card, hoping that the young man would change his tone upon seeing her name. Much to her dismay, Dojun simply continued grilling and eating meat, completely ignoring her presence. And so, the Sanspop, renowned S-rank hunter, swallowed her pride and waited patiently in the restaurant's waiting area. With a star like her sitting among ordinary people, she naturally became the center of attention. Center of attention. Men and women couldn't stop glancing at her. She was at the pinnacle of heroism. Not only was she ranked 4th nationally among S-class heroes, but most would even place her. I would put her on the list of the 10 most beautiful heroines in the world. All the civilians around were thinking the same thing. Who the hell can make Junin wait? Ignoring the whispers, Jian recalled the brief interaction from a few minutes ago. As far as he knew, Sodo had entered his first gate 2 months ago. He came out alive and was now suspected of being awakened. Many believed he had died in the recent Mapo Rift incident, but there he was, alive and having dinner with his family. Aside from all the details that didn't make sense, a single sharp look, XL-sized sandbags tremble in fear. One punch, and the prey falls. He is so fast that they can't even touch him, much less crush him with the weight of their weapons. He appears right behind one of them. From the young man made even an S-ranker like Jian nervous. A newly awakened person couldn't reach S-rank in less than 2 months, right? Even the oil tycoon Kavmor, who spent Naxdafins of that 44 fortunes made in magic stones, allowed him to reach the top in about 5 months. Rationalizing his feelings, Jian concluded that Dojun must possess some kind of unknown special ability. Finally, Dojun, Grandma, and little Junian finished their meal with full stomachs and lifted spirits. Near the exit, Jian approached, intending to finally speak with the mysterious young man. Before he could even speak, another individual entered the restaurant with an air of superiority. Dojun's eyes sharpened more than usual upon seeing him. That bastard, looking like a vermin, did not expect to find Dojun alive after his excursion into one of the deadly gates, the lunatic Kanilgu. In fact, he was quite amused by Dojun's cockroach-like resilience, Dojun's cockroach-like tenacity. Even Jian recognized the troublemaker with a single glance. In the middle of the restaurant, tension rose as silence filled the air. Dojun chose to ignore him. The bastard hurled superficial insults and called out to Jian. Shigu was surprised to see an S-rank heroine talking to the cockroach. Dojun asked him to look after his family for a moment. All he had to do was flag down a taxi so they could go home. It would be more convenient for them to be away while he collected an overdue debt from that scoundrel. Fortunately, June was a fairly reasonable young woman. She did as Dojun asked and assured the grandmother and the girl that everything would be all right. She waved goodbye as they left, although the concern on their faces was evident. June stood there, feeling somewhat awkward, as the taxi drove away. They had barely left the restaurant when a resounding and sharp, he takes down the idiots, delivering a kick so powerful it shatters the guy's head. With all the fools now on the ground, he grabs one of their swords and starts collecting those sweet magic stones for himself. Sound of a slap erupted from inside the establishment. With his loved ones out of the picture, Dojun could finally stop acting like a saint and deliver a slap. Monumental. He moved so fast that Chilbu didn't even see the blow coming. Music. He only felt the burning sensation on his cheek. Ashamed by such a humiliating attack, Chilbu gritted his teeth. He charged forward to retaliate. One of the waitresses attempted to stop the fight, fearing that the awakened would destroy the restaurant if the situation escalated further. Music. His reasonable request was met with irrational violence. Fortunately, she wasn't seriously injured. Seodohun calmly asked everyone to leave and clear the area for their safety. Chilbu was truly easy to provoke. He was a muscle-bound idiot who didn't even know how to deliver a proper insult. That's why he received another punch to the face, which caught him completely off guard. When he felt the knuckles connect with his head, Khan Chilbu was the very bastard who had locked the original Kujun behind a door, leaving him there to die. Although he wasn't originally aggrieved, our protagonist still harbored a deep resentment towards that idiot's face and really wanted to give him a piece of his mind. Silgwu, that goblin-faced bully, sneered and he mentioned how Dojun's evil stepmother was the cause of everything. Seeing that extracting information from that idiot was easier than expected, Dojun pulled out his phone and pressed the record button. In the video app, he just needed a clear and concise confession, and his life would be much simpler in the future. Once again, Silgwu felt insulted by Dojun's indifference. He gathered energy in his fist, calling Dojun's mother a bitch, and attacked with brutal intensity. He intended to finish the job that he had failed to do. Same. After a while, he finishes filling his backpack and is ready to leave, though he's honestly pretty disappointed with today's haul, since he's basically carrying dead weight in his last time. He wanted to kill Seodohun once and for all. Unfortunately for the big guy, his primitive attacks were no match for Dojun's expert manipulation. He received the violent, he punched with a light touch, sending the enemy's fist flying back as if it had collided with an impenetrable, elastic barrier. Kan Chiu had never experienced anything like that before. Normally, he would simply crush everything in his path to kill, but now it seemed like he was facing someone far beyond anything his tiny pea brain could comprehend. Suddenly, he was pushed and fell flat on his back. Dojun followed the trajectory of his body like a hunter toying with its prey. The sounds of fists crashing against a skull echoed throughout the restaurant as the waitress from before desperately tried to call the police. But before she could even press the call button, a delicate hand gently took the phone from her. With a bright smile, Unan assured the waitress that she would take care of everything, so there was no need to involve anyone. The authorities. The waitress was simply grateful to see a reassuring face amidst her crisis. Slaps, scratches, and punches rained down on Kanigu's entire body, without giving him the slightest chance to catch his breath. As far as Jian knew, that wretch was a B-rank hero. With a rank like that, there weren't many people capable of leaving him in such a state, helpless. Based on this beating, Dohun could be classified as A rank. Well, even if that were the case, the fight still looked far too one-sided. Before things got any worse, Uyun carefully called out to Dohun to stop for a moment. Watch out for Dohun to stop for a moment. She was worried that Kanigu might die if the beating continued. Deciding to listen to her, he dropped the goblin thug's limp body onto the ground. Bag. Just a bunch of low-rank gems. Just then, one of the agents finally spots him and calls out to his colleagues. Before Dojun can fully turn around, the men in suits are already giving him a gem. He wiped his hands, seeing that there was clearly some kind of vendetta between them. Jian asked the young man how much he knew about Kanchilgu. Dohun perhaps didn't know the full picture, but he knew enough about that bastard to seek revenge. Unyuyan warned him that the piece of trash, Kanu, was connected to Kan Yongo, an S-rank hero. Well, Dohun was already aware of that. Jian had never met someone so reckless and insane. That guy didn't even seem to care about the potential consequences of facing an ashram. Zhang Huyan explained that Yongo was extremely protective of his delinquent cousin. This incident at the restaurant would undoubtedly reach that monster's ears. When that happened, there would be bloodshed. Dohun scoffed at Jian's concerns. He was the last person to be afraid of some arrogant S-rank hero. More than the future problems, he was bothered by how much Jian knew about his life. Now that the goblin bully was on the ground, Dohun's animosity shifted towards the meddlesome ashram. Face to face, the young savage glared at her. She didn't. She was no pushover and wouldn't cave in just because of intimidating eye contact. Changing the subject, she apologized for the sudden visit and mentioned its purpose. She had simply been sent by her uncle to speak with him. After learning about the bag of magic hero crystals that Dun sold, Jian wanted to acquire the rest. She was willing to buy every piece he had, regardless of the price. Dojun warned her that it wouldn't be cheap. After all, he had a large amount of precious treasures stored away. She assured him that the resources of an established S-rank hero were beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Well, it wasn't that he was opposed to selling his things. He just had one condition before doing business. Nothing. Stern look. They begin by explaining that they're from the Gate Control Center and ask him to show his hero registration card. If he's not registered, he'll have to go with them to the important, really, just a small favor, at least for someone as renowned as a Huyu Yen. Elsewhere in the city, the sound of bottles of expensive liquor could be heard, crashing into the ground. Dojun's evil stepmother was thrown into a panic after receiving new information about her stepson, who was presumed dead. Her subordinates were certain that the boy had died in the crevice, and now they were receiving news that Dojun had survived like a resilient cockroach. Press F to pay respects for the bald man here. Having a boss like her must not be fun at all. They couldn't be blamed for the misinformation. Even the Hero Association had listed Dojun as deceased. The evil stepmother didn't want to hear excuses. She wanted results. To make matters worse, they had just received news about Kan Chihu's defeat at the hands of Dojun. At this point, it was safe to assume that Son already knew who was responsible for the attempt on his life. Hearing that she might be implicated, the stepmother swallowed nervously, terrified. She wasn't afraid of Dojun himself, but more worried about the trouble that would arise. When her father or husband found out about her dealings, they could cover everything up, but if the news reached the media, the group's stock price would plummet, so he ordered his people to intercept the press. If they failed, Group and W Group would cut all deals and advertisements. First of all, the police also had to be on their payroll. In that aspect, the stepmother's people had already begun to move to cover all fronts. Knowing that they at least had a minimum of competition relieved some of the pressure on his shoulders. The bald director whispered to him that no matter how many cover-ups they did, that would not solve the root problem. In that sense, the bald director had a plan that could put an end to that headache, but they, a mere high school student. But, my friend, they have never been so wrong in their lives. When they try to catch him and put handcuffs on him, Dojun shows them a glimpse of his power. Control center. Our guy isn't too keen on that idea, which makes the suited man tense up even more and adopt an even colder tone, insisting that he cooperate and follow protocol. Needed to use Kanchu's cousin, the infamous Kang Yong-pyo. Even someone like the stepmother knew about Last Ranker. Kanchu might be famous for being trash in the hero world, but everyone knew how close he was to his powerful cousin. In reality, Kanchu was just a pawn doing all sorts of dirty work under his cousin's orders. They were both sick in the head. If Chibu was detained by the police and crushed by the press, it wouldn't reflect well on the S-rank hero either. In fact, he was already taking steps to manage the public relations disaster. The stepmother made a decision. She wanted to meet with Kanang Yonggyo as soon as possible. Furthermore, that dog Hwan Chon from HS had openly allied himself with the enemy and was now taking care of Do-hun's family. That's why the stepmother wanted a prosecutor on the line immediately. Those who abandoned her side would pay the full price. The next day, we follow a group of heroes entering one of the 37 rift zones in Korea. Among those zones, 5 were being converted into secured gates, while the rest could only be raided by affiliated heroes, to associations at coordinated times. Today, Miss Unuyan was personally leading a team, and with her S-rank ID, she essentially had unlimited access to any door. Among the diverse crowd of heroes equipped with weapons and luxurious gear, stood a young man in an old and worn sweatshirt, having chosen Jeonnam's C-rank club guild as a temporary group for the hunt. It was very rare to be part of a raid led by an ace ranker, so they were all excited. Jeon explained that he simply wanted to have fun and stretch his muscles a little. In reality, he had to orchestrate this whole situation so that the young man in the background could cleanly enter the gate. Seodo agreed to sell the rest of its reserve of suitable. The only response they receive is the annoyance reflected on Dojun's face, along with the fact that all this unnecessary drama is ruining his mood. Even so, the magic crystals at market price if she allowed him to enter the restricted area, as he wanted to make more money hunting in higher level zones. Although it was true that the areas of Krisen, cracks that housed all kinds of treasures, entering such a difficult one for guaranteed profit without fear was simply crazy. Well, she didn't care too much either. She needed to get those magic hero crystals. After a few minutes traversing a dark tunnel, the group finally emerged on the other side into a bright, wooded area. Unable to contain his curiosity, Inju began to pester Jeon about the true identity of the young man who was following their group. Jeon simply introduced Do-hun as someone she, music, but no one bought that mediocre response. Inju speculated that perhaps he was Queen Jeon's boyfriend. Tired of the constant murmuring, Jeon gave Inju a half-truth and confessed that, music, the young man was there because she owed him a favor. It's not an everyday occurrence that an S-rank heroine owes someone a favor. While the group was still distracted by their conversations, a massive shadow suddenly blocked out the sun from above. Everyone looked up and saw the beast. As an A-rank guild, the Clio's heroes responded instantly, drawing their weapons and immediately taking their positions. Their first encounter was with none other than the fearsome cockatrice. Being the expert explorer that she is, Jeon took command and gave clear, precise orders. Jingu and Dian would handle the defense, while Hana would target the legs. But before she could finish assigning roles, a figure sped past everyone in a blur. With a single, powerful leap, that individual closed the distance between himself and the flying creature. Seodohun completely ignored the group's carefully made plan. The protagonist doesn't have the energy to argue and simply turns to leave. Since words aren't working, the men in suits threaten to handcuff him if he refuses to comply, and launch straight into a one-on-one fight with the bird. The heroes of the Clio Guild were left speechless. They had never seen anyone be so reckless. Gathering energy in his fist, Do-hun prepared to spill first blood. Just before his charge, the guildmaster, Injaba, cursed their bad luck. They had barely entered the portal when a troublesome enemy had already appeared. Before the group could organize themselves, Do-hun had already thrown his backpack to the ground. While Jeon gave orders, he crossed the air like a bullet. He was a true speed demon. With one leap, he neutralized the bird's aerial advantage. Up there in the sky, he took control of its field without any difficulty. His fiery energy swirled, thick and hot. The oversized bird did not have the speed or reflexes necessary to block the incoming attack. So it ended up taking a devastating punch directly to the beak. The bird fell to the ground, and the human was suspended in the clouds. It was almost a reversal. Poetic. Dojun landed in front of the group without even breaking a sweat. The cockatrice was dying, the mark of Dojun's fist embedded in its face. The members of the Clio Guild were completely stunned, just like their S-rank heroine, and what happened next was even more brutal. Dojun raised his leg and began to stomp on the bird's head until, turning it into pulp. It may have seemed like overkill, but killing a cockatrice required enormous strength. With every stomp and kick, the sound of skull cracking and blood splattering left the group horrified. Now Inju was really curious to know who the hell that guy was. Actually, Jian wasn't too sure either. All she knew was that physical force can be used if necessary. One of the more impatient men dares to grab Dojun's hand and threatens him with the injuries he will suffer if he doesn't cooperate. Worse still, Seodohun was an extremely strong human. Well, calling him simply strong was a terrible understatement. Few heroes can do what he had just done. Kill. Taking down a cockatrice in one hit is no common feat. Jian downplayed the accomplishment by mentioning his sister, who also belonged to that select group of elite heroes. Still, Injun couldn't getting over the fact that a hidden monster was among them. She had watched the entire sequence and had been completely amazed by it. Jean took note of the monstrous strength and determination of the young man. His curiosity grew even more. He turned to Injun with an impromptu change of plans. For now, he wanted to head to the center of the rift with Dohun, leaving the rest of the group on the outskirts. Jian carefully approached the young man, who was skillfully cutting up the cockatrice's carcass to obtain loot. Before she could say a word, he preemptively stated that he would not share the loot with people who contributed nothing to the fight. Luckily, Jian isn't one to covet a few magic crystals. She only approached to propose going deeper into the rift, a more challenging area that was better suited to his current abilities. With a smile, he happily accepted the invitation to continue hunting. Jian knew very well the layout of that rift, so she would take the lead. All Dojun had to do was follow closely behind her to avoid getting lost. Without any warning, she shot off so quickly that it created a sonic boom. Dojun calmly watched as her figure disappeared over the horizon. Then, he slung his backpack over his shoulder, assumed a running stance, and began to gather energy in his muscles. With an initial, explosive step, he unleashed a shockwave that nearly blew away the Clio Guild heroes. Inju concluded that if Jian was a bullet, then this man moved like light itself. Abandoned by both, responsibility will fall on him. So, according to the man in the suit, the best thing for everyone is to resolve things with words, not violence. It seems that Dojun has grown tired of all the chatter. Monsters. The ordinary heroes looked to their leader for instructions. Of course, trying to keep up with them was impossible. They would have to accept that they were just along for the ride that day, and the nobody. Still, it was a decent rift, with plenty of monsters to hunt on the outskirts. In the outside world, people praised them as powerful A-rank heroes, but compared to a real S-rank heroine, they weren't even worth mentioning. Meanwhile, Jian and Dojun's race progressed at an incredible speed through the trees. Jian kept glancing sideways to see Dojun, but not seeing him, he began to think that perhaps he had overdone the initial speed. Just as he was thinking about slowing down, Dojun suddenly appeared next to him, asking if they could go a little faster. Jian lost his concentration and almost tripped. He had never experienced anything like this, someone able to keep up with him in terms of speed. She belongs to the national top 2, but that list might need an update, considering how Dojun was making her eat his dust. A few moments later, he stopped to tease her a little about how slow, which was, evidently, because she had rushed off to show off. While Heroiness caught her breath, Dojun observed the landscape in front of them. A gigantic mountain range rose until it touched the sky. When he asked what Jian had hidden in that rock mass, Jian's expression turned solemn. That place was the lair of the rift's boss monster, the Carselian. That creature is 20 meters tall and resembles a draconic wyvern. Jian didn't even want to consider the idea of subjugating that thing. Normally, at least 3 S-rank heroes are needed. S-rank combat heroes to have a real chance against such a monster. The only thing Dojun knows about the Carselian is that it has a chance to drop an imaginary grade magic crystal, so he grabs that unfortunate man's hand and warns him to stop acting like a thorn in his side. This icy warning instinctively frightens the poor suited man. Imaginary grade, a treasure just below the maximum possible. And with such a tempting reward waiting for him, he's not going to let it slip away. Obviously, Jian is opposed to such a reckless idea. Well, Seodohun is fighting that draconic bastard, with or without Jian's help. Jian watched as he fearlessly accelerated, attempting to scale the mountains to kill the beast. She felt she had no other choice but to follow him into madness. Something grim awaits the duo within the boss monster's lair, a place brimming with unfathomable confidence to defeat a creature that easily causes trouble for 3 S-rank heroes. That really shakes Jian to his core. You know what's even more shocking? When he arrives at the location, he finds the same creature, the Sarion, dead at his feet. The fight is already over, and she has no idea what the hell happened. Our boy simply yanks his knife from the creature's corpse, leaving her speechless. Jian mirrors his shock. The creature he just defeated, any boss monster for that matter. In that sense, she talks about a prominent hero known as Park Hale, who forged a reputation for hunting monsters like the Carselians. Although he himself is an S-rank, the first time he went to hunt the Carselian, he was cautious enough to bring 30 rank heroes with him. And yet, even with all those precautions, the A-rank heroes were not up to the task and were slaughtered in the attempt. Park Hall was the only survivor of the group who clung to life at the end of the boss battle. From that moment on, he decided to face the same monster again. Only this time he was armed with another S-rank hero and 100 A-rank heroes behind him. S-rank and 100 A-rank heroes behind him. At that point, it was practically a small army. The fight was brutal. They concentrated on piercing the creature's wings and nullifying its flight. A shiver runs down his spine. The other 2 idiots pull out their magic staffs. Music, they're actually grade 4 magic staffs, powerful enough to subdue. The Carselian at that time was overwhelmed by a barrage of attacks from the heroes. This actually reminds me of the debate that's been going around lately about 100 men versus 1 gorilla. My money goes by men, by the way, and the result was the same in the fight against Carselian, who ended up being defeated in the end. Despite all of this, only a handful of heroes survived that battle. The rest were torn to pieces by the beast's rage. The damage they suffered that day was so significant that Hal's guild, Sweetly, has yet to fully recover, even marking the sign, 3 years after the event. And yet, this average-looking guy defeated the same monster, Carselian, without much difficulty. The funny thing is that, even as she glares at him, he reminds her that she won't get any of those precious gems by just standing around and fighting the air. The comment may have annoyed her, but Jian is more focused on how ridiculous the man before her appears to be. If she hadn't been there to witness the battle, she would never have believed such a thing. The same terrifying Carselian was defeated and completely obliterated from a single blow delivered by the hands of one man. As for Dojun, my boy has successfully harvested the impressive magic stone from the creature's body. He looks at it and tells it that he doesn't care anymore. It's important to have an escort to guide him, but from this point on, he'll be fine on his own. He also refuses to take the rest of the valuable items obtained from the dragon's body. Dragon, such as its claws and teeth, showing little to no interest in them. He turns around to reject her bluntly, leaving the S-rank hunter stunned for life. Instead, he prefers to focus on collecting the monster crystals. He even goes so far as to allow her to keep all those valuable items as a form of payment. Jian observes the creature for an orc, but they don't have enough strength to physically harm our boy. So, Dojun aggressively twists the guy's hand, making him whine like the crybaby he. A moment, and comes to the conclusion that she doesn't need anything from the beast either. Now it's night, and the rest of their group is surprised that a single guy managed to collect 3 bags filled to the brim with magic stones. It's an unbelievable sight, even for skilled A-rank hunters. It would have taken their guild at least 20 hours, and possibly, given the quality of the materials, even more than 3 days, which begs the question of the man's identity, and everyone is staring at Jian, who brought him here in the first place. Yet she seems just as bewildered as they are. Based on Jian's own statements, even the top-ranked guildmaster can't fathom how Dojun managed to defeat Carselian without any proper equipment. With this single accomplishment, he's already at the pinnacle of the hero rankings in Korea, unparalleled in strength. They're essentially saying, our boy is built different. Larangwa even believes he might be the strongest in the entire world at his current level. That thought astonishes her. Speaking of the boy, an utterly exhausted Dojun returns with even more bags. On top of that, with only 1 day of hunting, he's already collected so much. At this point, the group is starting to think that no one would believe them if they reported this to the outside world. The power, Dojun's divine power, is the very definition of a madness that's hard to accept. And speaking of which, they are explicitly told that they can't mention a single word of what happened today to the outside world. something they ultimately have to accept. The beautiful S-rank hunter approaches our boy, and they talk about various things. From a distance, it looks like they're a couple flirting, but that's just in the eyes of his groupmates. I guess they're trying to convince themselves that this is the beginning of music is. Then, the protagonist gives them one last warning. They better get out of here now, if they don't want to lose the last shred of dignity they have left. Music, eventually, a ship. They also think that he's the only guy in the world who seems to be a perfect match for Jian, especially considering his monstrous strength. The funny thing is how Rangwa's guildmaster quickly realizes that these two aren't the picture-perfect couple she had envisioned. Instead, it looks like they are, arguing, judging by the expressions on their faces. She can't believe that anyone in the world would dare to talk to Jian like that, of all people. What's even more surprising is how Dojun wordlessly hands him a bag and leaves in silence, leaving the guildmaster even more astonished. As for the state of the backpacks and the items inside that he collected, Jian shares his thoughts. It turns out that Dojun is afraid of suddenly becoming a celebrity overnight. He fears that if the outside world finds out he killed the Carselian, it would create a major problem for him. So he's leaving the responsibility to Jian. Hearing his decision, both of them are rendered speechless. But the irony of it all is that the law of manifestation ends up becoming a reality, and Jean begins to feel curious, wanting to explore more about this mysterious young man. The girl is in love. In another location, we learn more about the famous S-rank hunter mentioned earlier, Hal. He's here in beast mode, punching his punching bag. His assistant is impressed by his training because he seems to be bursting with anger. As mentioned before, he is the master of the Sweet Love Guild. The assistant helps him calm down, reminding him that a little endurance will help him a lot during these difficult times. Even the guildmaster agrees with that idea, believing that those who underestimate him will eventually suffer his wrath. Sooner or the suited men, bound by their duty, are forced to respond with violence. They try to hit Dojun with their magic staffs, music, but none of their attacks are successful. Our boy throws. Later, there will come a time when everyone will be admiring his strength as the most powerful guildmaster. His assistant continues to mention Joel's success streak, hunting Carselian, which distinguishes him from the others, even going so far as to say that his name will be etched in the history books as the hero who defeated Carselian with the smallest squadron. The funny thing is that title will never be surpassed by Tohun unless Stephen Hawking rises from the grave and performs a miracle. The guildmaster shares his enthusiasm with his assistant, talking non-stop about his own achievements. At the same time, his guild has been suffering significant losses compared to what it was 3 years ago. And yet, the only thing that brings a smile to his face is knowing that he is the only one capable of defeating the Sarion better than anyone else, a fact supported by his one-eyed servant. Speaking of high-ranking heroes, the scene shifts to Kanampo's office, where he is currently reading a report on Dojun's eventful night with Chalgu and how he annihilated Yambo's cousin. Even though Chihu's intentions were to lock the guy inside the rift and trap him forever, an unexpected twist occurred, resulting in an awakening. Furthermore, the client who tasked them with taking down Dohun is actually CEO Joniju, who is essentially at the top of the richest people in Korea. It doesn't make sense that she would single out a person as her target right in front of Yampo. That is, until he discovers that Dohun is actually her stepson. Although the boy was welcomed into their family at age 7, the moment Ihu's biological son was born, Dohun was expelled from the family. This fact amuses Yampo, who points out that not even being rich can save you from being kicked out. Speaking of the payment for the hit, he learns that they are being given 3 billion for the job, which is a mere pittance to him. Even though they attack him from all sides with electric shocks, it's all in vain. Dojun easily defeats them, as if they were just a bunch of children. They don't stand a chance and can't even comprehend what's happening. A crushing blow to the back of one of them, then another to the stomach of the next. Then, he focuses on the one with glasses, the last one, music, left standing. The last guy senses what's about to happen. And then there's the fact that Chigu is on the verge of death after his battle against Dohun, suffering numerous burns and bruises. What's even worse is that he is completely lost. Sight has also become a lifelong duty. This only adds to the brutality of Dojun's measures, to the point that even a guy like Yampo has to acknowledge them. Actions. And yet, Yampo enjoys the fact that he would have made sure to cut off her limbs in addition to crushing her skull. At first glance, they probably thought he was more sane than his cousin, but now it's clear why he is even worse. While they discuss the scene of their battle, it is mentioned that Jian was also there and supposedly helped Dojun in some manner. This actually surprises him, and he demands more information about the situation. He doesn't understand what's so special about Dojun. Unfortunately, not even his assistant knows anything specific about the encounter between the two, since the case was closed discreetly. Furious, Yampo grabs his servant and roars at him to do whatever it takes to discover the status of his relationship. Suspecting that they may have come to some sort of agreement, the assistant, devastated by this reaction, immediately runs off to investigate. Yampo is left throwing a broad tantrum, breaking things while musing that Hiju's men will come looking for him to complete the job his cousin couldn't. At the same time, he is more than happy to accept the job from her. After all, she is a rich woman with Enraged level money, so it won't be a problem for this miserly wretch. And now, we move on to the scene with our boy, who is returning home after the raid. Based on today's experience, he is more than happy to have spent his time in a rift instead of going on. And he tenses up. Dojun disappears in the blink of an eye, vanishing into thin air, which causes the poor guy to panic as he literally watches a man disappear before his eyes. A proper hunt. It also complicates things because she might have to form a prolonged relationship with Jian to ensure she maintains a low profile. Remembering their conversation, she told him, directly cause people to distrust her and inquire about the identity of the person who killed Carselian. Revealing that would invite a lot of trouble. So for now, the plan was to store the valuable items, and if he wants to become famous, she can gladly reveal their existence to the world. In response, the protagonist threw the bag to her so she could keep it, all the good things. This also means that he has to find another method to continue entering the rift zones, because depending on Jian causes him problems. Still, tonight's sleep will be good, since he will be able to rest in a luxurious house that Changab arranged for him. But upon setting foot inside the house, he is alarmed by the number of shoes outside. This means that unexpected guests have arrived. Upon entering the living room, he sees a group of men in suits, and his boss conversing with his loved ones. The guy looks like an older version. Nanami from Jujutsu Kaisen is in a depressed mood and stares at Dohun like an eagle. Junyun runs to greet his brother with joy, while Dohun is completely baffled by the situation. Prosecutor Park Chao Leon makes his identity clear by pointing out the connection between Dohun and Chango. Due to his relationship with this guy, Dohun is immediately placed under emergency arrest for participating in the money-lending organization run by the corrupt CEO of HCS Capital. Allowing the situation to unfold, CEO Jun peacefully surrendered to this alleged emergency arrest related to Wan Chance Seop's loan shark operation. He was immediately handcuffed and detained in an empty interrogation room. From inside the room, a treacherous punch lands directly in his stomach, making him stagger back in pain. It seems that Dojun is fed up with all of this, and the agents chasing him, so he could hear a pompous voice talking on the phone outside. The prosecutor who brought him in assures someone that both Han Chon-se and Sojun-se are behaving like good little boys. Before hanging up, the prosecutor thanks the person for handling his daughter's study abroad arrangements, then makes the mistake of saying Director Han's name within Down's range of Down's superhuman hearing. Approaching his silent detainee, the prosecutor prattled on about why he became a man of the law, stating that since he was young, he always wanted to isolate society's trash from decent, law-abiding citizens. Dropping a thick stack of documents on the table, the disgusting prosecutor flaunted all the dirt he had on Seodohun, alleging that the charges listed in his preliminary investigation would be enough to put the young man behind bars for at least a decade. Evenings. When he didn't get the reaction he expected, the prosecutor resorted to insulting him, going straight to the heart of the matter. Dojun asked with utter coldness if that Jonijo was behind this flimsy, legal maneuver. The prosecutor was visibly shaken, but vehemently denied such accusations, even claiming that he had never heard the name before. Dojun calculated that those corrupt bastards must have already been working with Wan Chan-seop. Dojun decided to cooperate silently to avoid trouble, but things could get much worse at this rate. Refusing to be intimidated by Dojun's aura, the prosecutor presumed that people in his profession are not easily broken. In response, the young man released a hint of murderous intent to silence that. He finally starts to consider registering as a hero. After all, the agent assures him that as long as he avoids shady or illegal activities, no agent will come after him. Dojun then asks about Clown. The prosecutor nearly wet himself at that very moment. He felt that penetrating gaze on a primal level music as a direct threat to his very existence. Ashamed to have, frightened by a handcuffed detainee, the prosecutor, trying to act brave, wanted to slap the detainee before committing the last stupid act of his life, but an intern interrupted him. Asking him to step out of the interrogation room for a moment, they informed him that they had just received news of an absurd discrepancy in Seodohun's file. The building hero detector assessed the young man as an ordinary person. Even after double-checking, the results remained the same. Considering the incidents Dojun had recently been involved in, how does something like that even make sense? Perhaps they were wrong to classify him as an awakened from the start. The prosecutor obtained all of his information from the Tedajoniju group, so the intelligence was assumed to be reliable. Right now, Dojun is an indecipherable puzzle. How could they accuse someone considered a normal civilian of incidents involving superhumans? Inside, Dojun internally mocks the prosecutor, thinking him an incompetent dog. If he wanted to, he could easily break these flimsy handcuffs and tear this whole place apart. As for the consequences, he could always take Grandma and Junion to a safer place, maybe even abroad, before resorting to a more brutal solution. Jun Yu-yun, dressed in a suit and tie, then entered the Stami interrogation room. He must have learned about this unjustified arrest and come to assess the situation. When asked why he was being detained, Dojun responded frankly that he himself wasn't entirely sure of the reason. Fortunately, Gio had advised him against doing anything reckless. She might be the only person who truly knows what this guy is capable of. Something called a rift. A question that leaves the people completely baffled. Here's a little context about how this world works. There are multiple passages that connect to another. This guy. The situation is frustrating, but using force now would only make everything more disastrous. Dojun didn't wake up today expecting to become entangled with the legal system, but she knows for a fact that Dojun is innocent of whatever he is being accused of. Seeing someone innocent facing unjustified punishment based on false accusations right in front of her, she feels obligated to correct the situation. Jion guessed that the Hero Association would launch a separate investigation soon. They will undoubtedly discover Dojun's fake hero license, and also, they will investigate the recent Mappo crack incident. Tohun asked Jong about the whereabouts of her family, and she realized that they were treating her like some kind of secretary. When the young man looked at her with an intensity she couldn't decipher, Jion noticed and assured her that her family would be well taken care of. Upon leaving the room, essentially becoming Dohun's legal representative, he proclaimed that this debt would not be forgotten. She won't show it, but Jion kind of liked that he was depending on her this time. He would resolve this setback as quickly as possible, and he wasn't kidding around. Unan's chosen method was a direct legal defense, aiming to prove Dojun's innocence. Instead, he exposed Prosecutor Park Chun's numerous crimes and illegal business dealings, which resulted in the prosecutor's dismissal. Once that unfortunate man was out of the picture, a fair investigation proceeded, unhindered. Seodohun was found not guilty in connection with the loan shark operation and other recent incidents. However, he couldn't completely avoid punishment, as was to be expected. The investigation revealed his use of an unauthorized hero license. Thanks to Yunan's proactive defense, he only received probation. While they were driving home, world where strange monsters live. These passages are scattered all over the planet. The magic stones that are obtained from the bodies of the monsters are used as new. From Dohun, breaking news reports on the radio spoke of a never-before-seen monster that had appeared in England, causing widespread destruction. The monster was described as a creature similar to a 1.5 meters tall mantis with compound eyes and a terrifying leap. Dojun identified the creature as a seesaw based on the description. Jun almost crashed the car when he heard that name. To pronounce that name meant the information about newly discovered monsters is heavily guarded by the association. He only knows what a seesaw is because of her rank as an Eastern heroine. You see, monsters aren't given arbitrary names by just any random idiot. Upon death, they drop magic stones that contain not only condensed energy, but also unique information. By analyzing that encoded data, it's possible to learn a lot about a monster, including its true name. On present-day Earth, science and technology are used for the analysis. In the destroyed world, on the other hand, magic was used. In other words, Dojun is incredibly familiar with the monsters that appear in both worlds. He knows their names and everything there is to know about them. Out of the blue, he revealed that the Micasians can be easily handled by using the red flower ant fluid. The fluid is harmless to humans, but acts as an extremely potent paralyzing toxin for the Micasians. Spray those bugs, and they'll stop wreaking havoc. Union turned serious for a moment. Every movement, and his words only deepened the mystery. Just who exactly is Hyun? No matter how much he tried to pry his true identity from him, Dojimas wouldn't give him an answer. His mind is clearly elsewhere. He's formulating a plan to prevent any future headaches. The only reasonable solution he could come up with was to kill that John. Speaking of the director, sources of energy, which makes them highly coveted. For this reason, the government monitors these passages to maintain complete control over each and every one. Any passage that is, John was on the verge of despair, nervously biting her nails, consumed by anxiety, and trying to devise new plans to deal with her husband's illegitimate son. With the involvement of someone like John Juan only increases the pressure she feels to take care of the boy. The assistant director wasn't of much help at all. Even after exhausting all available resources, they couldn't. They can't figure out what kind of relationship the S-rank heroine has with Dojun. If they make the wrong move and offend someone of that caliber, all the company's money won't be able to protect their behinds. More importantly, Jonaji was alarmed by the prosecutor's report indicating that Seodohun was registered as a normal citizen and not as a hero in the testing machines. Based on everything they know about the boy, it's quite clear that he awakened something dangerous. Maybe he has some ability to fool the hero detector or something of that sort. Her son is bleeding money with this crusade of his, and the best his people can offer her is speculation. Absolutely furious, he finally decided to take the plunge and contacted the S-rank rogue, Kang Yong Pio, offering 20 billion, not 30 billion, to eliminate this problem named Dohun once and for all. Upon receiving the S-rank call, the scoundrel greedily demanded double the payment to take care of this minor inconvenience. Even his own subordinates found demanding 60 billion for such a simple job a bit excessive. He may be a low-life criminal, but Kang Yong Pio is also a cunning bastard. He could tell that Jonu was out of options. There were no other alternatives left. Besides, his company generates so much revenue that 60 billion would barely be noticed if it disappeared from their accounts. Furthermore, Uno is now part of the controlled by the government and accessible to heroes is called a door. Passages that are not controlled or closed are known as cracks. Getting back to our main character, Equation. Since Kang Yong Pio is taking on the risk of facing another S-ranker, doubling the initial offer suddenly seemed a little more reasonable. The subordinate agreed that Unu Yen, a truly dangerous opponent, hearing his employee praise another person of higher rank, Kan Yompo's fragile ego was offended, and he cursed the subordinate for doubting his combat abilities. Against someone like Joan, he claimed that he could finish that person off in about 20 minutes. Of course, the subordinate had to calm his boss down for fear of losing his life, all while wearing a smile. Disturbingly, JNP changed the subject to his transaction with the Hero Association. He is also negotiating a deal before flying to the UK as one of South Korea's representatives in order to help with the insect problem. Unfortunately for Yompo, the association is tightening its budget. Furthermore, those bastards have already publicly announced the selection process. For the heroes being sent, they are practically making it difficult for S-rank heroes to refuse participation. Yompo may be a bully, but he sees the association as an even worse group than the thugs. The operation is scheduled to take place in 3 days. South Korea will be sending its best and brightest heroes, along with some Japanese heroes. At least Jongo will finally get to meet someone named Takasi. As of now, the Macasian's weakness has yet to be discovered. Whoever uncovers such a crucial piece of information would have their reputation skyrocket in the public eye. Speaking of the Macasians, those insects have extended their advance as far as Cambridge, in the United Kingdom. British heroes have been fighting relentlessly to halt the relentless invasion of those giant creatures. They've assembled a decent team of heroes. Being in the United Kingdom, they utilize a lot of bladed weapons in that region. The brave frontliners are having a difficult time coping. It seems ridiculously annoying that these suited agents follow him everywhere, accusing him of invasion no matter which door he goes through. The poor agent explains that if an unregistered hero with a giant Solian that is terrorizing the public, this mantis possesses the speed and sharpness to kill slower heroes in a single blow. Finding their rhythm, the British heroes counterattacked with a coordinated offensive. The group had a balanced formation, and judging by their skills, they were not to be underestimated. Some used magic to forcefully tear through the thick exoskeleton. The others followed up with rapid melee attacks, causing the insect's blood to flow through the streets. With proper coordination and enough power, they managed to take down their first opponent. Just to make absolutely sure that son of a bitch didn't have a phase 2 or anything like that, they decapitated the mantis. The heroes of Britain finally achieved a victory, but a single monster drained them of all their energy. To utterly crush their spirits, a few more beings emerged to prey on the exhausted heroes. That night, the greatest heroes the United Kingdom had to offer perished in a brutal and bloody slaughter. They gave what, they did their best, and put all their effort into trying to stop the inevitable from happening. Without clear information, they were helpless against unknown enemies. The annoying Mekans are now advancing towards the south. Cambridge's steadfast defense collapsed. Music. Now there are only about 60 kilometers between the insects and the capital. When the Mekans were about to make their final assault, to erase London from the map, something luminous fell from above in the form of rain. Music. When the fluid made contact with the insects, they all froze and felt an agonizing burning sensation, dying. After a few seconds of trying to resist the effects, they fell one by one. The paralyzing fluid flowed into their systems, rendering all of their terrifying weapons. Registered enters a door without permission. The control center automatically receives a notification, and nearby agents are dispatched immediately. As Dojun contemplates, useless in the face of biological warfare. In music, the air, the source of the rain was revealed, a helicopter that had been closely following the Mantis army from a safe distance. Music. On board the helicopter were the heroes of South Korea and Japan, assembled for the joint operation. Everyone was surprised that such a simple solution proposed by June had worked so well. The red flower ant sap is working better than expected. The lawns can't resist it. They practically turned into empty, useless shells. Standing next to June was Kanemoto. In his eyes, there was no way this woman could have miraculously guessed the solution and been completely correct. Breaking everyone out of their trance, Junyang took command and ordered everyone to parachute down to finish the job. With renewed respect and awe for the heroine of Korea's most important S rank, the cavalry swooped down toward British soil to prevent a catastrophic incident. A few days after that, joint operation, the whole world learned about what transpired in the United Kingdom and who the undisputed MVP was. Back in Korea, the media and fans swarmed the airport, and everyone was eager to see the nation's pride. Reporters and their crews were practically drooling, desperate to get an exclusive on June, the best hunter during the United Kingdom expedition. She was the one who discovered the Mekasian's weakness and spearheaded the operation to its conclusion. She practically saved an entire nation from despair. It's said that before departing, she was knighted by the royal family in recognition of her heroism. Wandohanian finally stepped into the airport. What the hell is this guy, really? After dealing with that pile of trash, Dojun calmly exits the dungeon, as if nothing happened. And you might be wondering, entering a crack, the agent makes it clear that these are not as easy to access as doors are. Illegally entering a crack carries a severe punishment, without camera flashes, and the audience's cheers exploded, as if she were a true celebrity. She had long since grown accustomed to this. Behind her was Kanonkyo, acting like Aidan Pavo, haircut. Although Jian is a public figure, the intensity of today's reception still overwhelmed her slightly. As for Kanyongo, he received credit for killing most of the Seekins during the expedition. Keep in mind that he basically killed paralyzed and helpless insects. His entire entourage of heroes consisted of 200 people. The brilliant performance of the Korean heroes was the reason why the United Kingdom still exists today. Details about the Mekasian hunt were made public on the news, including the fact that the sap of the red flower ant was their weakness. While walking through the city, our boy Seodohun heard the news and paused for a second. He was glad that Jian had been able to use his information, but when Kanyampo was shown on the big screen, his mood turned sour. That damn smug jerk on the screen is another loose end he'll have to take care of. Take care of it soon. Inside a random, expensive restaurant, Seodohun is having coffee with the woman of the moment. Joan kindly unloaded tons of gifts for the little one, Junior, for Grandma, and even for our boy. She warned him not to check the contents right then. It would be better to open everything at home. Ignoring her words, Dojun found very high-quality clothes, good quality in his pile of gifts. Jian simply wanted to give him a token of appreciation for that invaluable advice. Thanks to that information that Dojun let slip without importance, she became the most popular heroine in the world. Compared to the benefits he received, a few nice clothes are nothing. That's why she promised to buy Dojun. Warnings or agreements mean nothing to him. Dohun isn't interested in hearing any of that, so he grabs the poor guy by the face and throws him aside like a garbage bag. At this point, the agent, something else whenever he wanted. Bro, he landed a premium sugar mommy. She already knows that Dojun won't reveal how he knew about the Makashin's weakness, but she still asked, how? As expected, that man is impossible to pry information from. Changing the subject, Jian inquired about his future plans. He's not the type to preach about world peace or anything, but If he sets his sights on Honaiyu and Kanyongompo, things are going to get ugly. To Jion's surprise, Dojun's only immediate plan is to buy a new house, since the house his family is in now is rented. While the current star heroine and the former sword god were catching up, the other hero who stood out during the United Kingdom expedition was having the time of his life. Kanyompo was enjoying his welcome home party in a pool surrounded by women on all sides. Surrounded by girls, this unfortunate man couldn't get one particular person out of his head, Jion. In particular, Jion. He knows that the girl wasn't so formidable before. Something has changed about her. He finds it suspicious that she's hiding how she discovered the weakness of those insects. On the flight, back in Korea, Yompo also tried to provoke her, attempting to extract information about Seodohun. He mentioned how Jion appeared to save the day when Dohun became entangled with a corrupt prosecutor. She was also present when Kanchu was torn apart. Knowing that he was trying to get under her skin, Jion claimed that the idiot Chigu started that fight. Prior to that meeting, he attempted to assassinate Dohun, but failed. Yompo's mouth twisted into a wry smile, and he agreed. He also blamed the fool for getting carried away by petty cash. Still, Chigu continues, being his dear cousin. He can always use that relationship as justification to get revenge on this Dohun guy. For a moment, Jion almost gave herself away and showed emotion while being scrutinized by that. He regrets not having come to headquarters, as this far exceeds what he's paid to do. Before leaving, Dohun takes one last look at the people lying on the ground, thinking about how weak that guy is. The poor, cunning bastard. He immediately distanced himself from the conflict, assuring her that he was not in a position to interfere if something were to happen. Kanyompo was confused. He genuinely believed that she was closer to that Dohun guy, so he ignored her for the remainder of the flight. Jion put on his sleep mask and went back to napping. Still, even after that conversation, Yompo can't shake off the feeling that she wasn't being completely honest. The ever-paranoid Kanyompo continues to be cautious regarding Seodohun. Back in England, the original site of the explosion in Loddon was still a thicket. The damage caused by the monster wave was still evident. The British Hero Association deployed the limited heroic strength it had within the rift to at least secure the magic stones before the second wave emerged. Some of the guards outside were talking about how they could have distinguished themselves if they had known that the Macon could be eliminated with just a little red flower ant sap. If their forces had managed to block the wave early on, they would have been able to farm absurd amounts of magic stones. You see, once a rift opens and a wave of monsters pours out, it can never become a stable portal. With the second wave, it's highly probable that a completely different type of monster will emerge. Many records exist of entire countries being wiped out by the second wave. The unknown factor is the most dangerous aspect. Suddenly, the rift pulsed. The raid team had only recently entered to collect stones. Only 5 hours had passed. It wasn't even close to their scheduled extraction time. Still, the rank-and-file guards increased their vigilance, as desperate civilians stealing loose stones are a common occurrence near the rifts. Instead of the usual extraction process, the entire rift seemed to shatter into pieces. Instead of the mining team, something or someone else emerged from the man appears to have a broken arm and shouts threats, promising to catch our boy and put him behind bars. The scene changes to Solgus Digital Complex in the Gamcheon district. This rift. His humanoid face was covered in scars, and the armor he wore appeared otherworldly. That guy definitely wasn't a hero. Neither his attire nor his scars. They appeared real. Before the unfortunate guards could even contact headquarters, they lost control of their bodies and floated into the air. The man took a single step, as if he had teleported. He seemed to have teleported as he effortlessly lifted the guards. The #1 British guard attempted a counterattack with the United Kingdom's signature weapon, 3 knives. The flying blades reached their target, but several bright green circles made them vanish as if they had never existed. With a hoarse voice, the man complained that those guards were far too weak. He clenched his fist, causing the green lights to move. As a result, the guards were painfully sliced and torn to pieces, losing their limbs. Imagine remaining like a mannequin without arms or legs while you are working. A dark miasma flowed from the man's body. Using that dark miasma, he exerted dominion over space and he used the phone of one of the guards. He checked the current date and estimated that it had been 10 years since he last set foot on Earth, and yet, their mission hasn't even reached 20%. After all the effort put into opening dimensional rifts, it's time to admit failure. No, he just needs to increase the mana concentration to get back on track. But before that, this planet needs a decent cleanup. It's time to eliminate the weaklings. Back in South Korea, specifically in the Poo region, a young man ventures out on one of his routine getaways from the farm. Oblivious to what is happening on the other side of the world and carrying only a backpack, Seodohun walked through the restricted area. Music. Suddenly, his not huge building is now known as the Heroes Complex. All exchanges related to magic stones or anything found within the gates take place here. And nowadays, senses heightened as he noticed abnormal vibrations in the ground. Just as he expected, a battalion of disgusting worm monsters emerged, eager to get a taste of flesh. Their bodies were covered in metallic thorns, and their mouths were lined with sharp fangs. Music. Dojun remained in the middle of that monstrous gathering, completely calm and unperturbed by the ostentatious display of power. Instead of looking at the creatures, Music, he turned his attention to the holes they had left behind. He measured one with a glance and estimated that there were about 26 worms underground within a 100-meter radius. Music. With a crooked smile, he gathered mana in his hand, eager to test those bugs out. He wondered how many daughter would survive his initial attack. He sent the blast of concentrated mana straight towards the hole, followed by Music, an unsettling silence. After a few seconds of waiting, the long-awaited explosions began to spread through each of the other holes in the area. Music. Amidst the rubble and scorching flames, all the worms writhed below. The people of Earth were forced to evacuate to avoid being cooked alive. Dojun was a firm believer in working smarter, not harder, a technique that allowed him to avoid getting his hands dirty altogether. While he continued to collect stones from the disgusting worms, a meeting of great importance was taking place in the city, involving Manoni, the deputy director of the Heroes Association. From Korea, along with his boss, Na Taiwan, they were arguing about a young man who was difficult to handle. They were, of course, referring to Seodohun, whose strength reportedly couldn't even be measured by a standard hero strength meter. Other executives from the association, such as Vice President Park Sao, considered it absurd and threatening to allow someone like that to roam freely throughout the country. This place is busier than ever. Dojun is seen heading to one of the shops that buy and sell magic stones. Upon entering, he is greeted by a Gen Z kid, busy scrolling. They wanted Seodohun to answer to the association, because according to the deputy director's information, all the strange occurrences surrounding Seodohun began with Kian Changgu's evil plan. Waking up in the portal raid where he was supposed to die, Dohun changed drastically. Later, he took revenge and single-handedly dealt with a new crack in Mappo. It's true that sometimes he acted excessively, but he always had good reasons for doing so. Overall, Dohun's power could be classified as an overwhelming force. Na Taiwan reflected that a wild horse is the most difficult to tame. Still, a good horse is a good horse, and that's what mattered most. The conversation originated from Dohun's request to obtain an official hero license. He was granted the special privilege of bypassing standard procedures, as he had a guarantor, none other than the country's S-rank star, Jun Hwan. Upon learning of his connection to the Golden Girl, the higher-ups were astonished. Knowing that they couldn't afford to offend Hwan, they accepted and expedited the request for Dojun, no complications at all. He was registered as South Korea's 8th S-rank hero without even setting foot in the association. With his newfound status, he could finally hunt in any rift zone as he pleased. It wasn't a bad perk. News of his recent carnage in the Poo Rift, where he incinerated the dangerous worms, quickly reached the ears of the director of the association. That intimidating veteran was very pleased that the country's new Ashrant was already meeting expectations. It's not every day you hear about a hero entering a second-rate rift alone, without a guild or supporting allies. To normal people, that was pure madness. The vice president, who had previously fiercely opposed Seodohun, now advocated for Instagram photos that melt your brain. When Dojun mentions he wants to sell some magic stones, the shrewd shop owner immediately starts boasting about his business, revealing the young man's identity to the public in order to promote a new rising star. Fortunately, the deputy director nipped that stupid and greedy idea in the bud. Manoni stated that they had to ask Dojun himself first before exposing him to the life of a public figure. The vice president argued that, in an era of instability, giving people a new symbol of hope in the form of a high-ranking hero would alleviate the stress of the masses. He tried his best to convince Director Na Taiwan, but the veteran chose to be cautious before the association made any decision. He wanted to meet the boy in person. Meanwhile, speaking of Dojun, he was still on his worm-slaying marathon. When he wasn't using explosions of mana, he resorted to his usual brute force. While he was cutting down one poor worm, the others surrounded him. They might be a difficult enemy for normal heroes, but their movements were completely telegraphed to Dojun. With his hand strengthened by the burning power of mana, he unleashed a wide slash that burned and decapitated a dozen worms in one go. With just one movement, he crashed against the ground, and dozens of corpses collapsed around him. Dojun stood atop a mountain of bodies at the Aurora farm, looking like a true boss. His hands still burned from the lingering effects of his technique. He sighed and dissipated the last sparks. As expected, the mana consumption from continuously hunting and killing waves of high-level monsters was no joke. To remedy this, Seodohun finally decided to acquire a suitable weapon, and the best place to obtain quality equipment was the Gas Sonero complex. Seodohun chose a discreet store and entered. Inside, a guy covered in bruises was behind the counter, playing on his phone to kill time. The welcome bell rang, but he didn't even look up, ensuring that this branch offers the highest prices to its customers, even claiming they are the best in the entire country. Dojun finally places all the low when asking if the client had an appointment. Seodohun ignored the guy's question and threw his backpack onto the counter, demanding that they fabricate a weapon using the materials inside. Annoyed, the subject stated that they did not serve anyone without an appointment. Dojun had already been turned away by all the other shops in the area, each claiming to be completely booked. This shop was the only one that had answered his call. Still, the guy flatly refused to serve him. He was irritated at having to look up from his phone. With his patience wearing dangerously thin, Dojun grabbed him by the collar of his shirt. Ignoring his threats and insults, he demanded to know who owned the store, calling him a little bastard. The guy proudly declared that the business belonged to his father. In that case, he had better call him as soon as possible. Seodo had come specifically because of a trusted recommendation. The bum was released. He snorted with disdain, but he cowardly retreated into another room to call his father. An old man wearing a welding mask modified for better vision emerged from a workshop to see what was happening. His name was Choshalan, a master craftsman of weaponry for heroes. Dojun explained that he had come on the recommendation of a Huyen. Of course, both father and son knew the name. Hell, the whole country knew him. Old Choi was simply surprised that an S-rank celebrity was aware of his work, but Seodohun had come to talk business. He took out the materials from his bag. The Woodmaster examined them carefully and identified a giant black viper fang. It had been a long time since he'd seen one. Well, Dojun wanted a decent sword made. With that material, he wanted his weapon to be as long as possible, and who wouldn't? The craftsman objected to the request. Stretching a non-metallic material too much would be detrimental to its durability. It would be more effective to make two medium-sized swords. Hearing that lackluster compromise, Dojun asked if the old man was openly admitting that he didn't have the ability to craft quality gems, stained with monster blood, on the counter, causing the shop owner to make a sour face as if he'd been backstabbed. He's truly disgusted by all the durability. Two medium-sized swords would be more effective. Upon hearing this mediocre compromise, Dohun asked if the old man was openly admitting that he did not have the ability to make what the client wanted. Still, he didn't want two swords. He simply wanted to fuse them into a single one. The only thing that mattered to him was the length. Well, how you use it matters too, friend. In addition to the absurd length, he wanted the mana absorption rate to be raised to the maximum possible level. Faced with those incessant and almost irrational demands, the lazy man couldn't stay on the sidelines any longer. He was proud of his father, a man capable of crafting weapons with at least a level 3 mana absorption. Sound responded by taking one of the swords, displayed in front of the store. He observed the blade and evaluated the material to be grade 5. He then grabbed the sharp end with his bare hands. Father and son were rendered speechless and astonished, while the strange client performed a miracle. The pressure increased until the death grip caused the grade 5 material to break under sheer force. That product at the store, displayed with so much pride, was reduced to dust and sharp, fragmented pieces. The vagrant thanked his lucky stars that he hadn't interfered with the mysterious client. The old man watched as his creation was utterly destroyed. Seodo warned Chochuan that if he intended to create trash with the materials he had provided, he should quit the job immediately. If those hands could reduce a grade 5 weapon to dust, imagine what they could do to his face. After finally securing a shop willing to meet his demands, Sohun headed to another dungeon. His target for the day was a green monster with rough skin and a single eye. With its sharp senses, the Cyclops shrieked upon sensing a hostile presence. Blood stuck to the stones. Still, he doesn't complain and proceeds with the transaction. They ask Dojun if he'd like a coffee while they process the stones. A while later, he's enjoying coffee while nearby. While other hunters sought to look stylish with their equipment, Sojun hunted solo, wearing jeans and a hoodie. Since he didn't yet have a suitable weapon, he would use his bare hands. Now, the Cyclops didn't let him attack first, attempting to crush him right from the start. When its strike missed, the creature panicked. Dojun leaped into the air, compensating for the size difference. His sword hand moved as fast as lightning, tearing a juicy chunk of flesh from the Cyclops' shoulder. The pain made the beast shriek in an even higher pitched and more annoying tone. Desperate to retaliate, it uprooted an entire tree, using its monstrous strength and colossal size, and waved it around, trying to crush the hooded man. Unfortunately for the Cyclops, such clumsy tactics wouldn't work against this particular man. Dojun launched an attack, and 2 more deep, horrible wounds appeared on the creature's shoulders. It was a bloodbath. Normally, this would be the end if he were facing any other monster, but Cyclops were specials, music. They possessed regeneration so powerful that they could withstand and even mock fatal wounds. Dojun, taking into account that ridiculously strong ability, thought that if the enemy has insane healing, he just has to keep dealing damage, not giving him the opportunity to recover. After regenerating, Dojun clawed, slashed, and tore his way through the tough flesh and the grotesque viscera. To top it off, he beheaded Music the Giant and fell, striking an elegant hero's pose. It was a clean, albeit bloody, victory. Music, against that green-skinned airhead, Seodohun sighed, showing slight exhaustion. Maintaining a monosword for prolonged periods was still too demanding and inefficient. He took his backpack and pulled out why is this boy so powerful? Well, he used to live in another world that was destroyed by monsters, far stronger than these. Monsters had infiltrated that world. The owner carefully cleans the blood off. Then, the owner calculates the total amount. There are 12 low-quality magic stones, 16 medium quality, and 5 of high and low quality. Also, music jar. He submerged it into one of the Cyclops' grotesque wounds, as if he were drawing juice. That was the real objective of today's expedition, to obtain some blood from. Cyclops returned to the Hero District at dusk. As usual, the lazy attendant was manning the counter, so Dojun simply left the jug on the table. He instructed the pampered son to deliver it to his father, explaining that with this, the 2 black viper fangs could be fused together with ease. After that brief explanation, he refused to say more and left the premises. He had already gathered all the basic materials for his weapon, but if he wanted a higher mana absorption rate, he needed one more ingredient, and only. There was one place on Earth where he could get it. While he was planning how to obtain that secret ingredient, his S-rank partner received a very important call. Jun Huyan was enjoying a relaxing vacation when he overheard a country mentioned, Brazil. It was sunny and the water was perfect, but Jun couldn't enjoy his break because of that call. Following their recent mission in Europe, the Korean Association had decided to dispatch their heroes to Brazil. This meant that the Brazilian government and association, they had given up on trying to close the rifts on their own. As far as John and Yu were aware, the Brazilian monsters were particularly violent, but the magic stones they left behind were unusually plentiful. With so much money at stake, their Cleon guild would also be participating. Inju urged Juyan to accept the mission and to go with the boy they had been with a few days prior. Inju assumed that the 8th-ranked hunter from that country must be the guy they entered the dungeon with, the same one rumored to be Jun's man. Inju fully supported that budding romance after deducting a 40% commission, Dohun should receive about 5.5 million, but our boy doesn't feel good about handing over a 40% commission. He feels it's unfair since he did all the hunting and spent his time. Bud, it seemed romantic to him that 2 supremely powerful people would hunt a person that only the 2 of them could see. After much insistence, Inju finally managed to get Juyan to accept the Brazilian mission. However, he had no idea whether that boy would return to the small shop in the Gasan Hero Complex. Old Chewie gazed at his own creation in amazement. There would never have been. He would have never imagined that non-metallic materials could be melted and fused together using Cyclops' blood. If it weren't for that young man, he would have never discovered such a strange technique. With this, he could forge the sword as long as Dohun wanted, even reaching the upper limit of 180 centimeters. Sejun wanted a 2-handed sword with an adjustable grip so he could use it with a single hand, something that weighed about 5 kilograms. Old Shoei was surprised to see that the rude young man from the previous day was now speaking so politely. Apparently, he did know basic manners. Perhaps his weapon was really important to him. The craftsman warned that 5 kilograms would be too heavy to wield with one hand, and it's not as if he would only use it once or twice. But Dohun knew exactly the specifications he wanted, and he wouldn't deviate from any of them. The old man estimated that the manufacturing process would take at least a month, and the mana absorption rate would reach grade 7. But grade 7 wasn't enough for Dojun. That level wouldn't be able to handle his full power. As he expected, it needed one final push from a very specific ingredient. Dojun headed to the door and instructed the old man to only work on the weapon's shape for the time being. The mana absorption enhancement could wait until he acquired the rest of the materials. As an experienced craftsman, Old Man Choi had an idea of what material the boy was referring to and couldn't help but shudder. A few days later, Dojun went out into the city. How the hell does that bastard think he has the right to keep almost half the money? The owner boasts about being generous by only charging 40%, especially because, to meet a very important woman, Unin kept her promise and got him a completely new car. Dojun was very appreciative of the gift. She insisted that it was really nothing. Compared to what Dohun had done for her, it was just a billion-won car without much significance. When he thanked her with a smile, Jian momentarily reverted to acting like a shy girl. As Dohun inspected every inch of his new vehicle, Jian asked him what had happened with the Hero Association. After meeting with the higher-ups, those dusty old men, Dusty's proposed making his information public, but Dohun demanded a considerable payment if they wanted to do so. He knew that President Nahun looked after the common good, but politics, it clouded everything. In the end, the negotiation fell through. Having finished his inspection of the car, Dohun climbed into the driver's seat. Yuyan silently entered the passenger seat. While he buckled his seatbelt, he mentioned the association's preparations for the imminent operation in Brazil. As soon as Dohun heard the word Brazil, he stopped paying attention to everything else. He leaned in close and sincerely asked if she would go with him. Stunned, she could only manage to stammer a yes. Hearing this, he invited her to accompany him. The Brazilian S-rank hunter, Riz, was truly extraordinary. The national heroine's heart fluttered and her cheeks flushed uncontrollably. Meanwhile, another woman was also blushing because of Seodohun, the wealthy heiress, Jonijo. She was being scammed by Kang Yonggyo, who was trying to squeeze even more money out of her. He urged Director John not to hold back on expenses at a time like this. He already received $3 billion up front, but he wanted more, and he hadn't even begun the job he was supposedly hired for, finally killing Seodohun. Her patience wearing thin, Joniho seriously considered hiring someone else. Because all his competitors charge 45% or more, he's so confident that he even offers Dohun to take his stones if he doesn't like the price. After all, no one else will offer him more, at least to do the dirty work. Surely there were plenty of ruthless people willing to kill for a large sum of money, no questions asked. Kanan Pio scoffed at his outdated information and told him, gave a free piece of information. He had just learned that Sohun had become the country's new S-rank hunter. They were practically equals. Now, Director Hun refused to believe that the weak and cowardly child she had expelled from the family had become some kind of superhuman. Yongo had spent a lot of his own money to obtain that information. If Jonan didn't want to believe her, he could wait for Seodohun to climb that tower and kill her herself. Overcome by desperation and fear of retaliation, Director Han stopped Jongpu before he could leave. He was out of his league and didn't want to die. That desperate woman promised to pay anything in order to remove Seodohun from her path. Kan Yongpyo smiled and replied that he had changed his mind, and that instead of more money, he would prefer a stronger business alliance with the director's conglomerate. At that point, Jonijo would have accepted anything. Just then, he received an important text message, as if the heavens were smiling upon her. The perfect opportunity to get rid of Sojun had arisen. A few days later, the nation was buzzing with excitement over the announcement of another international expedition for the country's heroes. All the S-rank heroes who accepted the mission were now aboard a luxurious private jet. On social media, people eagerly anticipated seeing the S-rank CCO save a country on the verge of collapse. The Koreans? That's what this guy claims. Our boy doesn't fall for the trap and starts putting his stones back in the bag. Seeing that his maneuvers aren't working, the bastard grabs his hand before we're overflowing with pride. One of them was Hanganungo, who had led Group P to the top, and he only accepted missions with a substantial monetary reward. United and was now heading to Brazil without any rest. Kang Jompyo was also scheduled to go, drawn by the tax exemption offered for each magic stone acquired during the mission. Obtaining even a single mid to high rank stone could transform the life of an average person. While all the S ranks were being discussed and lauded online, a figure raised more questions than sparked rumors. Sion, regarded as a rookie, debuting on the international stage, nothing particularly flashy. With these 5 heroes at the apex of the food chain, Brazil was about to get intense. After a long and peaceful flight, the group finally arrived in Sao Paulo, Brazil. The Brazilian Heroes Association convened to organize how everything would unfold. They were eager to welcome the prestigious Korean team, which had responded more quickly than all the other countries from whom they had requested assistance. Some S-ranks didn't even stop by the hotel and immediately jumped into action. Even so, the Brazilian High Command feared the Koreans would discover something they had been trying to hide. There are no secrets that last forever, so they just had to ensure everything remained under control until the collaboration was over. Brazil's national treasure hero, Mari, had been defeated by an unknown entity. It was a gruesome death. He wasn't killed by a monster. His black box clearly captured the figure of a human assassin. Nobody knew this had occurred near the sand crack. At that time, the Korean team was receiving the necessary information regarding the action plan. While everyone was listening attentively, Xuan was busy sending messages. He leaves and demands compensation for the appraisal and the coffee he drank. 30,000 won for the appraisal, plus 10,000 won for the coffee, not to mention all the blood that ruined his expensive towel. And searching for Seodohun, it turned out that he had stayed on the plane and taken a connecting flight to a more distant destination. He was heading directly towards the sand rift. Juan couldn't help worry. He had just learned that the man was heading to the most troublesome rift alone. The team was supposed to have a 2-day local adaptation period before being assigned to the rift areas they had applied for. After the meeting, Jian didn't stay long and took a taxi. Kan Jompio followed her to ask where she was going, wondering if they weren't supposed to move yet. To get rid of him and his insistence, she told him she was going to San Pio for a moment. Obviously, he found that suspicious. The Brazilian Association had explicitly warned them of the danger of that place. The area near the Sanram Rift had become a desolate wasteland. Jun Huyen and the Cleon Guild met with Seodohun to accompany him on his supposed solo mission in solitude. Since they had gone to the trouble of rushing to that cursed place, Juyen demanded to know why he was in such a hurry. Dojun claimed that they were the ones who were late. They argued like an old married couple. Tired of their constant questions, Dohun finally revealed that he was after the blue crocus. But the answer was disappointing, and Jian was bothered by how casually he spoke. He was talking to him, so Jian insisted that he was 3 years older and demanded a little more courtesy. As they continued to bicker, the Cleon Guild members watched from behind, astonished that neither leader John nor they had ever met anyone with the nerve to boss Juan around. As they advanced deeper into the rift zone, some guild members hesitated to continue without a proper plan. Adequate, but the presence of a Huyan in the team reassured them. There was no doubt about his ability, although it seemed like the rookie was the one truly taking the lead. While some were suspicious, adding it all up, Dohun supposedly owes him about 350,000 won. Dojun doesn't give in to these absurd demands, no matter how much this crazy guy insists. Seeing that nothing is working, the guy, of the man leading the way, those who had participated in the previous raid, fully trusted his leadership. Confused and somewhat uneasy, Jian wanted to know if Dohun was planning to close the Dohun crack. He denied having any such ambition. Sun had come for the materials and to exploit the area to its fullest potential. After a few more minutes of quiet walking, they finally encountered the claws of the point. First obstacle. The Cleon Guild was full of talented A-rank hunters, so they skillfully carried out their roles. They had a clear hierarchy and precise orders for engaging unexpected enemies. Unexpected music. Still, the blue crocuses blocking their path were far more monstrous in person than they appeared in the photos. They could only defend themselves, and the situation was becoming increasingly, ever more dangerous. Music. With the group stalled, Seodohun finally made his move, drawing his sword and ordering the A-rank hunters to step aside. While all attention was focused on him, he didn't miss the opportunity to farm ears, or rather, to capitalize on the combat. Old Choi knew that he was after the blue Croco's heart, so he had lent Dojun valor. Temporarily, Dojun fixed his gaze on the target and shot off like a projectile. Music. With a clean and efficient sequence, he turned the pesky blue Crocos into filleted meat. He moved so fast music, and with such decisiveness that it triggered the classic anime effect. He was already meters ahead of the beast's music when they finally fell. Those who had fully trusted him from the beginning felt vindicated in their belief. Those who doubted him were left speechless. That boy was incredibly strong. Music. After that initial setback, the journey towards the Rift Zone continued without any major problems. Music. The sun had set, and the group set up camp. Gathered around the campfire, the members of the Cleon Guild couldn't He resorts to street tactics and threatens Dojun with his guards, who are class heroes. Just then, some huge guys come in through the back door, asking why they were called in. Stop talking about how Seodohun had single-handedly defeated a group of blue Crios in one fell swoop. He hadn't even broken a sweat. It wasn't yet public knowledge, but that's what happened. Also, how he defeated the fearsome Carselian. There was no doubt that he wasn't just any ordinary hero. While the others gossiped, Dojun grilled his sickly-looking steak. Jun approached him and asked if he was finished organizing the blue Crio hearts. He confirmed that he was, and the refrigerators he had brought were now full of them. Jun still didn't know what those hearts were for. Hearts. Seeing his frying pan, he asked what kind of meat he was cooking, because it definitely wasn't beef. He replied matter-of-factly that he was roasting blue Crio meat. Blue. He offered Jun some of the meat to try, saying there was plenty. Even though they had abundant provisions for the expedition, this man was cooking what he had just hunted. Ignoring her disgusted expression, Dojun bit into his grotesque food as if he were enjoying a barbecue. He chewed and swallowed happily, using the knife as a fork. It was quite a scene. Quite unpleasant. Even John Nun-Yu was disturbed. Music. They had plenty of normal food available, but their leader was devouring meat. After overcoming her initial disgust, Jan felt curiosity. Music. She took a piece for herself and examined it for a long time. Inju wanted to stop her before she did something she might regret. Music. But Jian trusted Dojun's taste. As the piece of blue meat approached her mouth, Inju could only stare in horror. Jian didn't take a dainty bite. After swallowing a small portion, music, she was pleasantly surprised by how delicious it was. Thus, two people from the camp quietly enjoyed an unusual meal. Curious, John and Seodohun quietly asked Mr. Seodohun, "Someone is causing trouble. They are ready to take care of it." In response, Dojun shoots a cutting glare at the bastard, who returns the gaze with the same intensity. After a moment, for her secret, how could someone relatively unknown charm someone like Miss Jian? Yes, she was inexperienced and had never had a boyfriend, but she wasn't the type to give herself away easily. Your heart so easily. So, what exactly did Doj do to win over National Treasure and get him to taste his meat? Mentioning romance reminded him of his time at the academy, Imperial long before he turned 20. When it came to matters of the heart, there was Mesmes Ren, from the Conde Gren family, the youngest of the Lazulian family, Luenda Lulian, and of course, his last refuge in the destroyed world, the brave knight Veronica. He lingered in his memories for too long, until Injulo whispered about his secret. He responded that Jian was the moth, and he calls her that. Inju had never heard anything more ridiculously cheesy in his entire life. And so, the night passed in a playful atmosphere, even though Dreo was enjoying himself. Back in Sao Paulo, Nanjumpio was still enjoying a luxurious hotel suite. He kept wondering why Junjuyan was in such a hurry, especially since the official date for the operation hadn't been set yet. According to her sources indicated she was moving alongside Seodohun and the John Hun Guild. She turned to her assistant and inquired about the range of profitable monsters in the sand zone. As far as she knew, there shouldn't be any that could be considered lucrative. Everything about that bastard Seodohun is simply too unpredictable. Yongo's worries were dispelled when the hateful Director Hong called his phone. As always, he called to ask if the job was done. Hearing how impatient he sounded, Canyon Pio hinted to him if something had happened on his end. Well, she was worried that her father might have found out about Dojun's promotion to S rank. He was telling the boy to come home. Now that the president of T Group was getting involved, Johnny-Jo was more nervous than usual. Jumpo found his suffering amusing. Still, the scene cuts to the terrified and sweaty face of the owner, who had recently been acting as if he were the protagonist, but received a harsh reality check when Dojun defeated his to come home. Now that the president of T Group was getting involved, Johnny-Ho was more nervous than usual. Jumpo found his suffering amusing. Still, finally, he had found a suitable partner who would guarantee him enormous profits. He would ensure that she wouldn't be disappointed. He assured the director that Sohan would not be able to return to Korea. Hearing this, Joniju felt a slight sense of relief. Kan Yompo marked a point on his map and prepared to contact someone named Tikasi. Now that Seodohun had slipped away to a place, isolated of his own volition, his job had become much easier. As the sun rose, Santa's expedition team, led by Dojun, resumed their journey. Jun held the map, acting as a navigator, and warned Dojun not to approach the jungle because of the monsters. Music. The most concerning among them were the lynx. Of course, Dojun knew all about Dojun, the lynx. Instead of avoiding the dense jungle, Seodohun advanced directly towards music, the most dangerous path. Joan knew that it was impossible to stop this guy once he set his mind on something. Objective, but she still insisted that he at least put on some earplugs. Fortunately, she had prepared some in advance. The earplugs were necessary when, to face a lynx, their screams had a hypnotic effect capable of paralyzing the mind. Dojun was aware of this, but refused to use them. Sojun didn't give up easily, in her attempt to convince him. After all, the warning came from the hero of the Brazilian treasure. Ignoring her pleas, Sojun wordlessly advanced through the thick jungle, from Santa, leaving him with no other option. Umu, Jan, and the Cleon Guild were dragged into this treacherous ritual, after an entire day of walking, leading him to despair. The people fought until their last breath to protect the place they called home. Among those brave souls was the protagonist of this story, Carselian, 3 thugs without even breaking a sweat, making it clear who the real protagonist is here. Then, Dojun walks up to the counter and negotiates the commission down to 1% without any further argument. All, uninterrupted, they finally arrived at the monster's lair. Under the moonlight, the lynx watched them like a predator stalking its prey. It looked like a deranged and enormous cat. As soon as the beast made its presence known, Inju ordered his subordinates to cover their ears. While everyone else was panicking, Dohun simply stared at the animal. Without moving an inch, he was not the prey in this situation. 2 predators sized each other up, locked in a duel to determine who possessed the greater aura. As expected, the lynx opened its horrendous jaws and unleashed a deafening scream. Jun, Huian, and the members of the Cleon Guild immediately covered their ears, while Sohan remained standing, enduring the sound without any protection. Noticing his unusual composure, Juan wondered why he wasn't even using a minimal defense against the lynx's attack. Dojun lowered his hand and conjured a ball of flaming energy. With perfect precision, he launched the projectile towards the lynx perched beneath the moon. That immediately stopped the screeching sound. Recognizing him as a threat, the beast narrowly escaped. Dojun drew his sword and pursued his prey on foot. Janu, Jian, and the others recovered and followed him, although they still didn't understand what the hell was going on. They ran through the depths of the forest, and Dojun's strides abruptly stopped. The Lengo was nothing more than a lure to attract victims to the pack's den. That kitten had been hit by Dojun's attack at the entrance, and looked furious. Suddenly, his eyes shone with a warm, radiant light. His gaze swept over the group of humans and quickly settled on one main target, Jian. His eyes met Lix's glow, and for a moment, he fell under her spell. We know there's no arguing when someone like Dohun looks straight into your soul like that. So the deal is sealed, and Dojun walks out with a huge wad of cash for all the loot. Luckily, Dojun quickly moved to cover her eyes. He then calmly explained that Lix's scream wasn't the truly deadly thing. What was paralyzing was the magic in her eyes. The solution? It was simple. Everyone just needed to close their eyes for a moment and let him handle the heavy work. Dojun advanced confidently, sword in hand. Perhaps it was time to test his current limits. With a crescent-shaped sweep, his energy manifested as a fiery arc adorned with clusters of power, a technique capable of transforming a swordsman into a superhuman. The first form of the sword band skills, a miracle born from a single point. He extended the tip forward and summoned an even more concentrated version of his energy blasts. The Lix pack had never witnessed anything like it and didn't know how to react. As a result, our guy got a free hit with his ultimate skill. The A ranks of the Cleon Guild were speechless and somewhat terrified. Resembling a crazed god, Seodohun unleashed the accumulated energy from the tip of his sword, and the fiery blast swept away everything in its path. Poor felines crawling along the branch realized they were too late. The herd fully received the miracle born from a single point and was absolutely annihilated. The impact nearly knocked the girls to the ground, and not in a pleasant way. When the radiance of the spell dissipated, the result revealed a gruesome scene. An entire section of the forest had been erased from existence. The earth was charred, and the person responsible for such destruction wasn't even breaking a sweat. The unfortunate beasts who tried to confront the wrong guy were instantly cooked. They had so exaggerated the danger level of these creatures that they didn't even have the chance to show off their repertoire. If Jian had, which he earned with his sweat, or rather, with his fists. His grandmother and sister are completely shocked by the enormous amount of money. His grandmother even suspects that Dojun, to describe Seodohun with a single word, it would be incredible. Surprisingly, a single lynx managed to survive the explosion that had essentially wiped out his entire species. Dojun wasn't one to leave loose ends, so he calmly moved forward to finish the job. Desperate, the surviving lynx attempted to paralyze the enforcer with its characteristic ability. Dojun interrupted him by mercilessly beheading him. It was a clean cut that marked the end of that night's one-sided hunt. The last thing the beast saw with its blessed eye, blessed was the face of the man who wielded the sword. Dojun knelt down and mercilessly tore out the dead lynx's eye. As a true hunter, he wasn't going to let such a valuable part go to waste. After burning the beasts and collecting their loot, the group returned to a safer path with an even greater appreciation for Seodohun. Juan was giving him tender glances from behind. They were all thinking the same thing. The man leading this expedition was definitely beyond the level of a normal human. Some would even place him above the iconic hero, Shawls. Others would even go so far as to rank Dojun on the same level as Ken Latur, currently the strongest hero in the world. However, the return to the normal route was not without its obstacles. They had barely entered the swampy area when some sinister, humanoid creatures emerged to bother them. These monsters clearly don't know how to read the room at all. After all, the dead don't have brains. They are just a pile of corpses, moving with the sole purpose of devouring. Their initial charge might seem intimidating, but it was far too predictable. A fist shot out, sending one of the ghouls flying. Seodo resumed his killing streak after a brief pause. This time again, with a direct hit to the was pulling something of skin in front of the door, but he quickly clarified that the money came from lending money to a friend who started a business and did incredibly well. Grandma isn't even sure. Head. He didn't need any weapons or elaborate techniques. The undead could grab his hands and be sent straight back to the underworld. Once he got into the rhythm, it was all over. A gust. The sound of skulls exploding in rapid succession echoed as the ghouls fell one by one. Using only his bare hands, Sojun ripped each head from its body. On this occasion, the members of the Cleon Guild accepted that they were mere spectators and remained behind, watching the highlights unfold in real time. A while later, after salvaging what they could from the ghouls, the group continued their journey. As they walked, Jian couldn't contain his curiosity and asked Dojun about his sword technique, specifically the movement that produced the radiant flashes. He was obviously talking about the first form of the Bandan sword skills, a miracle born from a single point. Without much interest, Dojun asked if he wanted to learn it, and Jian's face lit up instantly. But in a world as peaceful as this, Dojun saw no reason to teach someone something so overwhelmingly powerful. Juan felt that man, I was underestimating her too much. She was also an S-rank hero, so theoretically, we were on the same level. Seeing her defiant look, Dojun seriously considered teaching her the Dian sword technique. In the end, she accepted that the brick wall wouldn't budge and was left pouting like a little girl who didn't get the toy she wanted. To keep everyone focused, Inju decided to abandon the rift for now. The last leg of their return went smoothly, and the group reached the exit. Thanks to the sweep, they cleared the area, without any casualties or even injuries. The next time, they would enter again with the goal of closing the rift. Who knows, maybe it would be even faster that time. They all exited the rift that her grandson even has a friend like that. He tries to convince her with another lie, saying that he's a childhood friend. In the end, Grandma stops asking questions, at least the important ones. By one, with Inju coming out last. He immediately overheard a heated discussion in Japanese. Someone had been camping outside, causing trouble and trying to annoy the group. The more he listened, the more he recognized the rude voice. In the middle of the altercation, Seodo inexplicably had his hand around the girl's waist. Standing in front of them was Ryoma Takashi, a former Yakuza, an S-rank hero, and the master of the Toko Guild. He brought his men with him. According to Ryoma, he was supposed to have fun with Jian that day, but this unknown kid dared to interfere. He threatened to smash Dohun's face if he didn't step aside. Ryoma was much larger, but Dohun couldn't have looked more indifferent. He even responded in perfect Japanese. The old Dohun must have studied the language beforehand. Ryoma was not at all pleased to be answered insolently in his own native language. Sensing their boss's fury, the Yakuza thugs barked at Dojun, demanding that he bow his head and apologize from the bottom of his heart. They kept repeating that their boss was not someone to trifle with, while they could bark all day. Sojun didn't give a shit about it. In short, he told Ryoma to get out of there. Seeing the situation worsen, Inju's worry grew every second. Toko was among the 5 strongest guilds in Japan. Ryomate was a notorious bully famous for his violent temper. Even for Dojun, perhaps it would be better to avoid this mess. Trying to calm things down, he decided to intervene to de-escalate the situation. John Yu was calm and respectful in his approach, but Ryoma called her an idiot who shouldn't interfere. His team burned with fury. Their guild master was being blatantly insulted to her face. This could have easily escalated into a guild war, but Inju kept his. Meanwhile, Dojun's sister is super proud of her older brother for making the family rich. Dojun affectionately pats her head and gives her hope about the luxurious life they'll have. Guys under control. Despite the offensive words, Jeonyu formally introduced herself as the Cleon Guild Master and proposed resolving the conflict without escalating it further. Ryoma spat on their peaceful agreement. He had never heard of some insignificant Korean guild, so why should he even care? Music. Even worse, Ryoma offered to take his turn with his 2-meter beast after he was finished with Hwan. He then tried to forcefully grab Hwan, but Dojun's body blocked his hand. Music irritated, Ryoma finally showed his teeth after being bothered so much. His fist kissed Dojun's cheek. He thought that would be enough to knock out a nobody so he could have some fun. Meanwhile, the Yakuza idiots even let escape, claiming they had unfinished business, music, with Dojun. It could be inferred that this provocation was a calculated move. If that was the case, music, Dojun was willing to play the game. He immediately took revenge by punching Ryoma on the same cheek. His punch was noticeably more effective. Music. He launched the cliché Japanese gangster, sending him flying into his own people. The Yakuza thugs, who had been shouting obscenities, were shocked to see their boss in such a state. Down told everyone to stand back, explaining that they had initiated the attack, so what happened afterward could be reported as self-defense. The Yakuza members unsheathed their weapons and prepared to attack, but their boss requested a one-on-one fight. Ryoma removed his jacket, revealing his toned physique, and ordered his men to retreat. Awakening the dormant power within his body, the former high-ranking Yakuza showed why he was one of the best in Japan. Before the inevitable fight began, Jian approached Doj to give him some advice. He didn't try to dissuade him or anything like that. He simply asked his man to at least leave the poor Japanese gangster. From now on, the girl jumps for joy, thrilled about being rich. Seeing her so happy, Dohun realizes that he is truly making progress and fulfilling the promise he once made to himself. Half alive. What followed was exactly what anyone would expect. It was a shock to the Japanese guys, but it was the norm for the expedition group. Sohan was crushing the Aller. Yakuza Bokas, showing no mercy. Ryoma's head was buried in the ground as Dojun's heels stamped down harder with each stomp. Miraculously, Ryoma managed to escape from that humiliating position, crawling backward toward his men as he tried to reevaluate his life decisions. Who the hell had he gotten mixed up with? How could he even be human? This was not what their sources had told him. Look at those eyes. Seodohun was not a man you could. Looking directly into those eyes felt like receiving a death sentence. Every fiber of Ryoma's body screamed at him to escape or die. Without a doubt, it didn't matter if it was embarrassing to run away after having declared the fight and started everything. He only wanted to run and never see Dojun again. Unfortunately, he had to finish what he had started. The young man moved like the wind and appeared right in their escape route. Looking at the gangster was in pieces, and Dojun asked him if someone had orchestrated that whole scene. He already had a good idea of who was behind those dirty tactics, and denying it was pointless. Dojun grabbed Ryoma by his greasy hair, and the hardened Yakuza began begging for forgiveness, going from talking trash to pleading for his life. The change in his tone was drastic. Dojun, disgusted by his lack of backbone, he bombarded him with hundreds of slaps in just a few seconds. In the middle of that rain of blows, he clenched his fist to inflict some real damage. Dojun proceeded to smash the gangster's face to pieces. He beat that son of a bitch into a bloody pulp. Those present were paralyzed by shock and fear. It's not every day you see He remembers the words of the original owner of the body he now possesses, whose last wish was for his grandmother and stepsister, Junyun, to live safely and happily. That poor boy vanished. Person of that rank being treated like a nameless extra with no power. After many punches, too many to count, he released Ryoma's limp body. Inju hoped that his companion won, but this was even more one-sided and graphic than I imagined. After a brief pause, Dojun returned to the attack, inflicting even more trauma on the unfortunate man. He carefully placed his heel on the back of Ryoma's head. With everyone watching, he increased the pressure, silently threatening to crush his skull under his boot. At this rate, one of the valuable assets of that rank from Japan could die right there. Inge nudged Jian to say something. She snapped out of her trance and begged Dojun to stop before crossing a line that should not be crossed. He responded with calm assurance that he would take responsibility for his actions. Jian was already fed up with his attitude and dragged him away to avoid unnecessary problems. He shouldn't do something for which he would have to take responsibility in the first place. Still, Dojun had seen too much scum like Ryoma. He believed it was better to eliminate those types of people than to leave leave them running around like loose ends. But this was the real Anju. Inju and Jian didn't want him to get his hands dirty with trash. So, to convince Dojun that the Yakuza had learned their lesson, Inju ordered them to surrender and stay away if they didn't want to end up like their boss. Those idiots immediately fell to their knees and vowed never to mess with Dohun again. But Dojun wasn't easy to please. A theatrical genuflection wasn't enough for him. He wanted to see his enemies with their heads glued to the ground, begging for their miserable lives. Knowing that this boy could probably take out 3 of them in one hit, the thugs obeyed without hesitation. Dojun mentioned that Yakuza members were supposed to cut off their fingers when they made mistakes. Terrified at the thought of losing their pinky fingers, the guys, just before Dojun could say anything, he woke up to find he had already transformed into Sohun. Now, his sole mission is to ensure this small family lives safely and comfortably. 4. Hit their heads on the ground even harder and lower as they begged for forgiveness. So Dojun gave them a way out. They just had to say, "I'm trash and I'm sorry," and they would get away with it. A warning. Pursing their lips, the gangsters swallowed their pride in order to survive and repeated the phrase word for word. The Cleon Guild spectators sincerely felt vindicated seeing how Dohun handled the threat. Even that shattered rank had to repeat the humiliating phrase. After resolving the conflict, they closed the matter and returned to the Word Coalition headquarters. The next day, in sunny Brazil, John Inju-hu found himself in the Brazilian Heroes Association office to report on the events of the previous day. Former day. Reading the facts on paper was difficult to believe. The report summarized how a hero of that rank, like Raoma Takashi, had been beaten so badly he was practically crippled by a single man. There were a multitude of witnesses, but even so, it was difficult to accept. The Brazilian Heroes Association hoped that Korea and Japan would work together on the mission to resolve the problematic Sans Rift. If the report was accurate, the Brazilian Association wouldn't need to get involved. They would simply hand the case over to the Hero Associations of Japan and Korea for an internal ruling. With that settled, they proceeded to the section of the report concerning the group's journey near San. For the time being, everything appeared to be in order. The Brazilian representative did not. He kept seeing Seodohun's name popping up in the reports, so he inquired about meeting him, but that was impossible at the moment, as Dojun was occupied with resolving some matters. In a hospital room, a pitiful patient covered in bandages and almost unrecognizable due to his shattered face opened his eyes to a nightmarish sight. Dojun had come to pay him a visit. Therefore, he aims to purchase the safest house in all of Korea, which currently costs 110 billion won. For him, earning money won't be an issue once he regains his original strength. This world, complete with a bouquet of flowers in hand. Before Ryoma could raise a commotion, the executioner commanded him to remain still, asserting that he was there on an official hospital visit. Then, he reached into the bouquet and pulled out the eye he had hidden inside. Dojun forced Ryoma into an intense and uneven staring contest, with the gangster completely under his control. Lince, it was time to extract information about the man responsible for the provocation. Dojun remained in that room, interrogating his victim for a considerable amount of time. When he was finished, the infamous Ryoma Takashi had been reduced to a babbling, brain-fried idiot, constantly calling himself insignificant trash for causing trouble for the Korean guilds. His mind was completely broken, and that loose end was taken care of. When Dojun exited the room, Ryoma had been completely lobotomized and continued to mutter that the Yakuza were bastards. Knowing how to deal with persistent enemies while farming aura is the mark of a truly great protagonist. Rumors of the clash between Korean heroes and Japanese content quickly spread through all the major media outlets. Some articles narrated the beating, others showed the aftermath, and most sought statements from the Forderais, rising hero. Na Taeyong, the president of the Korean Hero Association, had a good grasp of public opinion. He knew that his new star was dominating the news cycle. News. The reaction was explosive. Reports about Seodohun saturated the broadcasts. The association also received news that the Japan Hero Association had abandoned its investigation. Reo Matayasi himself had requested his government to halt it. This was odd, considering he was known to be a temperamental person who